You are about to opt in to Monerotopia, a show for the Monero community where all are welcome to join. From noob to maxi, no matter what bags you hold. Just sit back and relax to the sweet sounds of Monero's latest progress. Or if you're feeling inspired, join us on stage. Remember, the only thing that can stop Monero is a false belief that it can be stopped. And if you want to win the revolution faster, we recommend you remove your XMR from all custodial exchanges immediately. Warning, voting accidents are common around here. Don't forget to properly secure your private keys. Monerotopia starts now.
Alrighty, Tux, what's going on, man?
Good morning, good morning.
How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
You got a new setup over there, or what's going on?
No, this is just a lazy man setup. I didn't want to clean my room, so I just put a giant screen up behind me so I could use my camera, because I usually don't, and the reason why I don't is usually just because my room is, like, too messy.
I hear you. How's it going? Having a good week? Good Monero week?
Interesting Monero week. Seemed to take a bit of a dip yesterday.
Yeah,
before
like
that it was great.
Flash crash, right?
Yeah, it seemed almost, I don't know, seemed almost like it was tied to news. Maybe it was kind of manipulation. We'll have Bawdy talk about that.
I thought maybe it was the banning of Monero in France, or perhaps being interpreted as that with that recent legislation that was put forth. I mean, it seemed to be pretty closely timed with that.
Yeah, it seems like that could have contributed for sure. The amount that it dropped in such a short period of time was kind of like just based on that news, because it's just France. I mean, obviously that's not a good precedent, but France, do they really have that much of a influence on the crypto market? I don't know.
Well, if it's France, it's potentially all of Europe at that point.
The EU,
right?
Yep.
So, yeah, I don't know. That was I mean, it did happen at that time, and does it really mean anything in the long run? I don't know. Well, I guess we'll get into all that, and like you said, Bawdy, I guess we'll give us some good insights. Yesterday was a good chat. I thought that was good. I thought that was fun, productive.
Yeah, that's a good little space. Got some different perspectives on the need for exchanges and the need for like less regulation.
Yeah, and I really want to kind of get the temperature of the Monero community. I mean, I don't know how accurate of a population that was yesterday. We had a decent amount of people in the room, and overall, people were giving thumbs up at the end when I said, "Should I pursue?" I wasn't getting a lot of hate, but I noticed anytime I bring up the subject, they always have like one or two people like, "Oh, you fucking status," like, and people just kind of like misinterpreting it. I guess because I don't know, people are so extreme in Monero land. But yeah, I mean, I'm not suggesting we bend the knee or do anything to the Monero protocol. We just advocate to get it listed on some more exchanges here in the U.S., particularly Coinbase and Gemini, the exchanges in New York. I think now's the time to strike. Obviously, I understand all the other sides of the argument, and we're building out decentralized bridges, and I'm all for that. But end of the day, I want more people to access Monero. And it's just like, if this was any other community, and if somebody was voicing that, they'd be like, yeah, let's do it. Let's get more users. The Monero community is like, I don't know. Like, what? We don't want more people using Monero?
I mean, there's definitely some strings that come with that, like what we saw Binance doing, where they basically just weren't actually holding really any Monero, hardly at all.
Yeah, that's the only argument in my mind, is like this concern that now they could be printing paper Monero. But historically, when Monero was added to exchanges, that's when it really grew. I mean, some of the biggest, growth spurts Monero ever had was when it was added to exchanges in the early days. So, and the matter of fact is it gives more people access to Monero, and then you make sure they understand that they got to pull their Monero off the exchange, right? And most people aren't really buying Monero to like. I think anybody that's buying Monero isn't really buying it to like swap it and like just try to trade with it. There's like better cryptos to trade with. It doesn't.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, obviously there's a lot of speculators for everything, but yeah, I mean, Monero's, it's never been like a
Like
big
if you
mover. So
like, you're not
it's
gonna want to
not,
day trade Monero, right? So just pull it
no,
off the
yeah.
fucking exchange. If you want to sell it when it spikes 10x, then sure, bring it back on the exchange. But I think there's like we could get that point across to people. I think we've done a good job getting that point across to everybody and like in the community. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's a win-win, and I think it's quite feasible right now, given where we're at, given the climate, the political climate. I read that executive order yesterday. I mean, you pull that up, that is like a home run. I don't know why. I feel like it kind of went under the radar more than it should have. Trump's executive order, his pro crypto executive order. I mean, in my interpretation, he's basically saying, it's perfectly legal for people and businesses to use Monero. And in fact, they want to promote the use of such tools.
Yep. Which, yeah, I mean, it's a little surprising, for sure. But once again, it's gotta. Those 4 years go by, and it's still just an executive order. It's not gonna last very long. So they gotta actually get some of these like things into law. If want it to be a longer term in terms of protecting people's right to self custody and like just developing crypto software and privacy software and all that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I read it last night on the show, but it is really. I don't see how you can interpret this any other way. It is therefore the policy of my administration to support the responsible growth and use of digital assets, blockchain technology, and related technology across all sectors of the economy, including by protecting and promoting the ability of individual citizens and private sector entities alike to access and use for lawful purposes open public blockchain networks without persecution, including the ability to develop and deploy software. So protecting the devs, to participating in mining and validating. It can never be, nobody can ever say it's illegal to run a miner. They can't regulate it. To transact with other persons without unlawful censorship, saying basically people have the right to transact peer-to-peer, and to maintain self-custody of digital assets, to hold your own Monero keys. And the real like bullish part is to give access and use for lawful purposes, and for businesses and citizens, individuals, citizens, and private sector entities. So I mean that's a strong message saying, centralized exchanges. Nobody can tell you that you can't list Monero. Like where's the rule? Where's the regulation? Now with this Trump's executive order. I've been framing it as we need to try to eliminate the bit license in New York, but it might even be simpler than that. It might just be getting clarification that these exchanges in New York that have the bit license, because to be an exchange and offer services in New York, you need the bit license. But then we just need clarification on whether or not those exchanges can list Monero, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, getting rid of the bit license does it too, because it just gets Kraken in here. They already do list Monero.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, there's really not any more clarity needed. It's just there's probably a lot of like stuff happening behind the scenes for why Monero was so delisted between all the other exchanges, or it was because of like potential pending or upcoming regulation there was a concern about, and they wanted to be on the good boy side. But like Kraken never did so, and they're totally fine. Because they never actually, it was never illegal to list Monero for any reason in the United States, right. Unless in the state of New York, like for you're trying to put some efforts down to get rid of the bit license, which is way worse than the typical money transmitter license, which is already bad enough. So
yeah, I'm focused on that. Shortwave surfer tipped 25 cents. Why you always late? 11:10 is not 11. I tell you why. It's actually a great story, but I'm not going to go into it. I don't think I don't want to go down that road right now. But yeah, in general, yeah. You know, I'm what can I say, man? It's my Saturday morning over here, trying to do a bunch of things. Sorry, shortwave. It's not like the show doesn't go on for another 4 hours, so
This is true.
yeah. But we'll try to be more timely in the future. Guys, use XMRchat.com/MoneroTalk to send your Monero super chats. Send anything. Send any amount. Just use Monero. Send us 5 cents. Just get it going. Let's get the transaction count up. We have 50. We just dropped to 56 live viewers. 56 live viewers. Guys, like and retweet. Let's get some people in here. We need a bigger audience. More digital cash lovers hanging out with us Saturday morning. Let's expand our audience. We're not maxi around here. If you're a Zcasher, come hang out. Come hang out at Monerotopia. Come on stage. Come talk shit. You're welcome. Right? Everybody's welcome to talk as long as it's on topic.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We don't want trolls. We had the Darrow guy up here. If the Darrow guy wants to come up here again, by the way, I mean, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the latest is. I see him continually.
His account got banned.
Like somewhat popular Monero post. He's like, Monero is not traceable. Like, I don't get it. And then he's like, I'm a privacy activist. Okay, so you're a privacy activist, and you don't want people to use Monero. You want them to use Darrow, which is completely broken and nobody uses. That's like your assessment of the privacy tech space. That's your advice to people. Like, I don't even get is he saying people should use Darrow? Because I think Darrow is still like broken, right?
Yeah.
So what is he saying? Don't use Monero and just wait, and like we'll fix Darrow, and then we'll all start using
Monero's
that.
an Israeli Fed coin, but for some reason Darrow's not.
So, but what does he want people to use?
Darrow.
Yeah, but isn't it broken?
Yes.
And he admits that.
Yes. Well,
so
maybe.
broken
I can't see anymore because the thing is that his account his account got suspended. I don't know why.
He's such an idiot.
But he was just.
I feel bad for this guy. He obviously poured all his wealth. It probably was a small amount of money, but he put his life savings into Darrow, and now he's just stuck trying to bring it back to life. XMR fantastic tip $1. Doug, for the length of this live stream, I will match 1-to-1 of any contribution to the Copa Monero Kuno up to a total of 1 XMR. Please promote throughout the show. Thank you so much, man. Let's pull it up. Tux, I don't know if you want to pull it up on your end.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this is the same guy, but I announced on the show somebody had reached out also willing to double any tips to Copa Monero. I've been keeping track of the ones we've had since. We've only had about 0.7 Moneros worth, I think, since I announced that. So this guy. So we'll get two double rounds of tips here. Whoever Fantastic is. We are at 83.35. I just haven't called it because I really wanted to get to the finish line with this one, guys. Copa Monero, come on. It deserves it. So we're trying to get 7 more Monero. That will give the winning team 40 XMR total. These guys totally deserve it. Alessandro did an amazing job. We left a mark there. This wasn't just something that like happened and now it's ephemeral. It left an everlasting mark in his town. We'll see what comes of it next if they do another one. I know Alessandro is probably not going to want to be the guy who runs the next one, but maybe he'll find somebody else. Or maybe he will want to do the next one once he gets that 40 XMR prize to his team.
How's the price split up exactly?
Basically, so what are we asking for here?
It's a total of 90 XMR.
Yeah, so we're asking for 90. 50 of that will go towards covering the budget. Alessandro's, time, my time, basically all the expenses. We had to hire security. We had it added up to quite a bit. Just so we break even. and then the other 40 was going to the team. And of that 90, I think I donated like at least 15 XMR. So it's like,
Wow.
I'm just
Doug's in. He's all
like,
in.
I'm donating to try to break even on myself.
Look, guys, it's this easy. All you got to do is just scan that QR code with your
Yeah.
Cake wallet.
But very much a worthy kuno. And this money that, basically all the expenses for Copa Monero were paid in Monero. We were paying Monero out to Alessandro to pay whoever he needed to pay. I guess he would, trade it for pesos if he needed to pay people. But Monero was used to run the Copa Monero. And yeah, we just want to get the winning team the prize, and then all the players will get Monero, and all these guys know about Monero. They're not just going to go like, I'm sure some of them will just sell it. But a lot of them are probably pretty well versed at this point in Monero and its purposes, and they're just going to use it. So this is
they can actually sort of
economy.
use it there, can't they?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So that's beautiful. We're seeding a Monero circular economy by
giving them some liquidity.
Yes, exactly. So thank you very much, XMR. Fantastic, very, very generous of you. So guys, please go donate. Maybe we'll repeat it a couple times during the show because we have, it looks like 2 different people that are willing to double the donations.
Awesome.
All right. And yeah, the other thing is I announced Monerotopia. I can bring that up too. There's not much information other than you guys can grab your tickets, super early bird tickets. Yeah, the more people that grab them early, the more momentum we get. Just very helpful if you do so. So it's going to be in Mexico City, basically a year from now. A year from like 3 days ago. It's gonna be freaking amazing, bigger, better than ever. Same place, Huerta Roma, beautiful venue. This time, all the vendors will be like 100. They're gonna be showing up like fully onboarded. We pretty much accomplished that last year, but now it's like going to be 100 because I've been communicating with the vendors. I have a bunch of them in a WhatsApp group, so I'll be able to say, only those who want to come and are ready to accept Monero, you can come be a vendor at Monerotopia. So we'll have a packed house of Monero accepting vendors, and like with Copa Monero, hoping to leave an everlasting impression. Right? I'm hoping when we leave, maybe this is the last one we do there. I don't know. Seems like it's going to keep pulling you back in. Hopefully, maybe it just becomes its own thing that happens down there, and we then do Monerotopias elsewhere. But would love to turn Huerta Roma in Mexico City as a 24/7 Monero oasis, because there's always vendors there every weekend. Rather than just being kind of a carnival that comes in and leaves town, it would be nice if it became known as a place where you can go spend your Monero on a weekend at one of the weekend markets. And I think we can get there because a lot of these vendors are the same vendors that go there every weekend, and word can just spread. And it's really once they learn Monero and really understand it and see how easy it is to swap it into their local currency, they can use tools like Havino, right? Maybe XMR Bazaar. Eventually we get that going a little bit more for those purposes. There are ATMs in Mexico City. Once they learn how easy it is, it's just like why wouldn't they be willing to accept Monero and whatever that tourist that comes through town that's going through Mexico City? It's a major hub. There'll be Monero people at some point will go through there. Every month you'll have 1 or 2 people going through Mexico City, and if they know that Huerta Roma is the place to go spend Monero, vendors accept it, and they could keep it, or they could easily turn it in. They could buy gift cards, right? And so that's part of the process. A lot of them have already learned this now, and then we'll drive it home again this year. So the locals there really come to understand Monero. I do want that to be a big part of the continue to be a big part of the conference, and just hoping to get a lot more locals in general, because the word really got out this year. We had more locals than last, and then the locals I spoke to, I had some that came from the first year, came again to the second year, and they said, yeah, they'll come again, and they'll get more people to come. So they get it. It's kind of organically spreading. We had a lot of big media outlets pick it up. We were written up in Forbes in Mexico. They were mentioning Monerotopia. They talked about Monero. They did an interview with Andres, and he explained Monero to them and explained Monerotopia. A lot of them came to Monerotopia. We did a good job with PR, and we got a bunch of essentially journalists to come check out Monerotopia at one point or another. And they actually wrote a bunch of articles. So, as we get closer to the date, we'll try to reach out to these publications again and get them to essentially, promote Monerotopia, so we get a bunch of locals to come for the right reasons. People that want to come learn about digital cash, not just like come hang out for free at something, but like actually want to come because of what Monerotopia is. So super excited about it. And the way we keep tickets basically free for locals is by charging those that can afford to come, that are flying in. So please consider buying a ticket. Consider buying a VIP ticket. That helps even more. And yeah, obviously the sponsors help out in a very big way. All right. We fart tipped 25 cents. I have never seen Tuxedo wear a tux. I imagine him wearing a tux and using pseudo commands with a pinky lifted off the keyboard. When will he come on camera in a tuxedo? I don't know, Tux. When
actually, don't even have one.
You gotta do it at some point.
I'm a LARPer. I don't actually have a tuxedo.
Really? You don't have one?
No, I have a suit, but I don't have an actual tuxedo.
Who is willing to sell a tuxedo, because now I'm so used to saying yours, a tuxedo.
I've conditioned everybody.
Who will sell a tuxedo for Monero on XMR Bazaar? Somebody step up. You need like a custom-made tux.
It's true.
Untraceable. Hola, what's up, Untraceable? Monero UK tipped $20. Wow, very generous, man. Very generous. Thanks, Doug and Tux, Bawdy team, for your consistency with the show. You're welcome, man.
Thank you, Monero UK.
We are consistent. I think
A
it's
little bit late, but
a little bit late, but we always show up. We always show up. Yeah, I think it's fair to say, like, we are the most consistent Monero media outlet out there. Monero Talk, Monero, right? I think it's fair to say that we've won that space.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's the only like Monero-centric one, to be honest.
Yeah. Don't worry, you guys. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here to stay all the way to the end. It's going to be glorious. Been reporting from the beginning. It's going to go all the way to the end. I don't know. Like, at some point, we'll be on Mars hanging out with Elon Musk. Reporting live where they fully adopted Monero.
Sad Donkey tipped 25 cents. What I really need to know about Monerotopia is how many vendors have continued to accept Monero in between Monerotopia 2 and 3.
Is that what you really need? I like how I'm demanding. I guess maybe English isn't your first language.
It's a good question, though.
It's a good question. No, we had they're people. They're people. The one that comes to mind was Caesar. Caesar was there. He runs a great stand. He has a barbecue going, cooking up food nonstop, really good. Has a bar, making people drinks. Caesar was accepting Monero the first year. We put a Monero sticker on his stand. This was in the first year. We left. Caesar proceeded to get paid in Monero after we left. He said 50 separate people paid him in Mexico.
Really?
That
Really?
came to his stand. Yes,
Wow.
between the first and second Monerotopia.
Wow.
And in different part, he was in different parts of Mexico too. He wasn't just at Huerta Roma. He went to the West Coast and like Oaxaca, like on the coast over there. And he had foreigners come, and they saw his sticker, and they said, "Oh, well, we'll pay him. Like, we got to pay him Monero. You accept Monero? No way." And he's like, "Yes," and he kept his cake wallet. And now I don't know if he's just super base, but he did tell me that he lost all his Monero, which I hate to like. And I honestly, unfortunately, I don't think it's, I lost my Monero in a Bawdy. I think he actually did.
Oh no.
Yeah, I think he actually did. And then he lost his private key, and he couldn't get his Monero. He had it on an old phone, but he totally gets it, and he totally gets it now. And he's right back at it trying to get Monero. And
this is why we enforce a seed verification now. If you make a new wallet and cake, it actually makes you verify 2 words of the seed independently. We're trying to like force people to save their seed a little more, because there's too many people that just be like, I'll do it later, and they never do, and something happens. So that's really cool, though, that he has managed to accept a lot of Monero transactions after the first conference, or technically the second one.
Yeah, and then was very excited this year. He actually helped me hire, find the place where we did the VIP party. Wasn't the best place, though. I mean, honestly, like we could do better. We'll do better on that next year. But he did it. It was a friend of his, and we actually ended up paying in Monero. We had somebody pay on our behalf. But yeah, there's people. There was him. There was a guy selling joints, and other things that was accepting Monero.
Doug very much likes that.
Was still accepting it this year. The shroom guy. And yeah, there were other ones. So, and it's just going to grow, especially now, because a lot of people walked away with it. And knock on wood, the price should be higher next Monerotopia than when we left. So that's usually kind of pulls them in.
Got another.
A lot of people did sell at the end. A lot of people did sell at the end because like somebody created a wave of panic, which is really unfortunate. Just like the woman who runs the conference, who still doesn't understand Monero. Like I talked to her about it forever. Like she's just not getting the whole crypto thing, and like she kind of like seeded panic in everybody. Like you got to sell your Monero, or otherwise, like
or else you won't be able to use it.
Yeah. So then like people like just like robots were like just kind of like, oh, we got to go do this. Like you don't have to do it. Like
no.
But it ended up working out anyway. That just becomes a marketplace where now you can go and obtain Monero,
KYC free Monero
with cash. Like you want Monero for cash? Show up at Monerotopia next year with cash, and you'll walk away with Monero, guaranteed.
Got this big super chat from Tree Stand, $20. Thanks guys for spreading the spirit of P2P cash, and shout out to Captain Blackbeard Radio and Pitch and Dread. Fair winds and calm seas. Okay.
Cool. Who's Captain Blackbeard Radio?
Never listened to that, but I guess we're giving them a shout out.
Cool. We'll have to check it out. Is there like an onion address to like access it? Where do you get it?
Mr. F tip 50 cents. Has anyone taken the effort to map the vendors that accept Monero in Mexico City?
Like just like places in Mexico that are accepting Monero. I don't think there's too many, guys. I mean, it's the vendors at Monerotopia. Yeah. But yeah, if somebody wants to do that.
And then Shortwave Surfer, tip 25 cents. Tuxedo wearing a tuxedo, typing sudo commands on a tuxedo computer's laptop. That would be extremely meta. I do not have a tuxedo laptop, though. I'm using a ThinkPad. But with that being said, I guess we can go ahead and get into the news, since we will start doing the news first.
All right.
And we got Tony today, so let's do it.
Sweet.
The Monerotopia Weekly News segment is sponsored by WizardSwap.io, a non-custodial cryptocurrency exchange.
Tony.
What's up, guys?
Tony.
Happy weekend. Hey. So, talking about the lateness, it's not lateness, it's just emotional suspense. Like when you go to the cinema and then the movie's not starting yet, like you're there, but just, a couple ads, like a couple stuff like that, in case you didn't get your coffee or, you still got a little bit of time. So just like short emotional
It's a good point. It's a
suspense.
good point. Yeah, we want we want the room to fill up before we go.
Yeah. How are you guys?
Good, man. Good. How you doing?
Good week. Weekend. It's kind of hot for January here. And you kind of noticed it when you guys were here. It's kind of hot. Actually, no, I think. How was the weather when you guys were here?
It was hot.
It was hot.
The first day when we arrived, it was cold. It was like freakishly cold for Miami. It was like in the 40s at night.
Yeah.
By the time I got there, it was pretty sunny and hot.
Yeah. So then the next day, the next morning, started to come back, and then by like Sunday, it was like Miami again. It was like hot.
Yeah. Doug was having a good time at the beach.
Yes.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Oh my God, I love it. That workout area at the beach is like, it's just a classic, like fantastic.
Muscle Beach, yeah. That's
looks like a movie scene.
Guy
yeah.
was there.
Yeah.
He still has the coconuts for Monero.
Like it's worth going to Miami just for that. You hang out near that. You just work out every day. Like,
yeah,
it's great. It's motivating because there's so many people there working out. Right? It's like very friendly. Yeah. Everybody's helping each other out. Tony, you were there. We were hanging out there last time.
Yeah. It was a good time. You got to go in the morning though, because if you go in the afternoon, the bars are hot. And it's just you're gonna get a a stroke. It's so hot.
This is true.
Yeah, but it's very good times. Yeah. All right, so let's get into the news section. We got a lot of good stuff to talk about this week. So let me see.
We got 140 live viewers, guys. Like, retweet, spread the word. Spread the word.
Okay. So let's talk about United Kingdom's leftist government order to create a backdoor allowing access to encrypted data from Apple. So, and then let's go to this article. Allegedly, the UK wants to have a backdoor on Apple and their devices. When they were being asked about it, they didn't comment anything on it. Apple also didn't reply to the request to answer if anything of this nature happened. So I don't know where this came from exactly, but I agree to what this article says, in which if this is actually true, Apple might pull their services, withdraw their services from the UK. And if they don't, and they do allow some backdoor, it wouldn't be just the UK citizens. I bet they will abuse it and just extend worldwide. So, and that would not be good for Apple's business, since they're so privacy focused and centric, allegedly. I don't know. That's what they say. So yeah, we'll see. Maybe if this is actually true, perhaps Apple is going to pull up their services from the UK. Yeah. So that's crazy. Then we have a X from Lola Leeds. She said, Feds run nodes to spy on transactions on indictments, and sealed yesterday reveals. This is why we need privacy protocols. And then there's a screenshot, and it says, as of in or about November 2023, there was an archive Ethereum node located in the Eastern District of New York. Well, regardless, you can see everything you want. So because it's public. So yeah, it's very important to have privacy protocols, privacy tools, and that's why Monero is so amazing. So yeah. Then let's talk about USAID. So they pushed nearly $500 million through a secretive US government finance NGO, Internews Network, which has worked with 4,291 media outlets, producing in 1 year 4,799 hours of broadcasts, reaching up to 778 million people and training over 9,000 journalists. 2023 figures. IN has also supported social media censorship initiatives. This is from WikiLeaks, by the way. The operation claims offices in over 30 countries, including main offices in US, London, Paris. And then let's go to this post. So the APC actually aired a USAID employee's description of the scramble as DOGE rolled up to the office, and their hurried removal of woke iconography allowed the documents burning scene in downfall. So let's listen to what she has to say.
But Elon Musk's influence is sweeping throughout the administration. It was late last week that the DOGE team showed up at USAID offices in Washington and demanded access. USAID employee Christina Dry described the scene.
DOGE was in the building. We took down our pride flags. I took out any books I felt would be incriminating. No one was talking. We heard they started taking transcripts automatically of all of our Google Meets. They unplugged the news in the little kitchen galleys. It didn't feel good. And then Saturday, all of the websites went down, and then I lost complete access to my computer.
The fact that she just said all of that's so incriminating to herself and the whole thing.
Right. Oh my god.
She just said everything that happened. We took down
This
the pride
is
flag.
it's just amazing to see, to learn about how this is basically just an arm of the CIA. Like, this is what they use to like fund their operations. Amazing that they're shutting it down. Like, major win, major blow to the deep state.
Major. And so it was headed by Jean Bourgault, who used to pay herself, I guess, or still does, $451,000 a year. So that's a very nice salary. She used to work out of the U.S. Embassy in Moscow during early 1990s, where she was in charge of $250 million in budget. But now her IN bio and those of its other key people and board members have been recently scrubbed from its website, but remain accessible at archive.org. It's crazy. And then I have a video of Schumer, who said, if DOGE can shut down USAID, next it might be the IRS or intelligence agencies. So let's watch this video.
Also know this is just the beginning. If DOGE attacks USAID today, then you can be sure they'll move on to another target tomorrow. Who knows? Maybe it'll be the Postal Service or the IRS or even the Social Security Administration. They could be next.
You can just hear people cheering in the background. Yeah!
Also know this is just the beginning.
Oh no, don't close down the IRS.
Yeah. Bawdy said the feds got fed boyd. Indeed.
I'd love to hear. Yeah, we got to hear Bawdy's full take on this, because I know, like, obviously, right? Like, what's really going on here? Great to see that they're dismantling pieces of the federal government, and it looks like one that really was active in like running dark ops and like being an arm of the CIA and basically being the control and command center for putting out all the propaganda that gets like dispersed to various media, large media companies. Like even the New York Times was getting funded by these people, like NPR, right?
Yeah, and actually we'll get to it.
This is where I'll let you get to it, but it's just it's hard not to see this as a win.
Yeah, and it's quite impressive how it's just been a month and they've already done so much, and it just makes you think how little they've done in all those 4 years, the Biden administration, and just in general governments around the world. Like, it's quite impressive how much, if they really want to do something, how much they can do.
Yeah,
in a positive way. I don't agree with some stuff. Like I think Trump wants to introduce plastic straws. I'm not a big fan of that, but whatever.
I mean, when you're the executive, when you're the president, you could eliminate departments under you, right? I mean, parts of the executive branch if they're under you.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. It's quite impressive how much they've done so far. Also, it's funny how Elon Musk changed his X description to White House tech support.
Ah. Dude, I mean, yeah, he's just like, this is like his dream come true, this guy. He's just having a great time doing it. Just trolling everybody. Trolling the world.
Well, he must be the busiest man alive. This guy has 10 kids, the biggest companies in the world, Tesla, Neuralink, and he's now in the government. That's crazy. But he retweeted. I'm going to say retweet because re-X sounds weird. So I'll just say retweet, I guess, still. A post from Ian Miles in which the US government has paid the New York Times millions of dollars. And Elon Musk retweeted it and said, New York Times is government-funded media. And Ian provided some screenshots of just money being funded to New York Times. And then I wanted to show this article from Newsweek in which they said, fact check, US government did not give New York Times tens of millions. And then I scroll all the way to the bottom and they have an indicator of if it's true or not. And it's all the way to false.
Yeah.
And they say how searching for New York Times returns unrelated spending for other institutions that include the words New York in some parts of the spending entry. They include grants to the Research Foundation for the State of University of New York University, and the New York Genome Center, INC. Regardless of whether that's true or not, I still am on the belief that government is funding all these media organizations to just push propaganda. So I'm going to stay on the side of they did give money to the New York Times.
Well, they were definitely giving money to media outlets. So
yeah. And just social media, like Mark Zuckerberg.
I don't see how,
One last time, he talked about how they kind of pushed them to just be pro-vaccines and all this stuff and pro-masks. So
eliminate them.
Yeah. Now let's talk about, let me go up, Cuprate 2024 Progress Report. So this is awesome. Cuprate is a Monero node implementation written in Rust that independently validates consensus rules and is interoperable with the Monero network. This project has been in paid development for the past 9 to 12 months. And they also have books. So they have the Cuprate architecture book, Monero's protocol book, Cuprate's user book. And in case you're not so technical on these things, and I'm not so technical on these, so thanks to Gigapens, he said in the Reddit comment section that they're basically recreating the already existing Monero node software in a new language called Rust. It's programmed to follow the same consensus rules that the existing Monero node uses. It's essentially rewriting the same Monero node in a new language, clearing technical debt, and adding performance improvements along the way, since they can start from a clean slate. So that's very positive news for Monero. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It's much more efficient.
Yeah, it's a very big deal. Also, by the way, you guys have all the links. So if you want to check it out and look more into it, you have the links so you can check it out. Now, this is a post from Doug. Did friends just effectively ban using Bitcoin privacy tools and Monero? The present article is also applicable to any operation carried out through a cryptocurrency with enhanced anonymity or funds routed via a mixer or a cryptocurrency mixing service. And this is why we need the real Donald Trump admin to take action to give privacy crypto tech the green light in the US. There should be no question whether a CEX can list Monero, yes, whether a US citizen can send a Zcash, Xenoproject, FireOrg, Pirate Chain transaction, whether a Tornado Cash dev can publish a line of code. Yeah, absolutely. And then I have...
we had somebody, I don't know if he's going to try to jump on. Maybe he's Random X Explorer. Not Elias. There was somebody that reached out to me that wanted to comment on the fact that France appears to have banned or is taking steps to ban Bitcoin mixers, whatever, crypto mixers, and Monero would fall into what they've described. So if that gentleman wants to jump up. But yeah, we talked about this last night. We did a Spaces on it last night. So Europe is moving and continuing to move in the direction of creating more onerous regulations against privacy tools like Monero, making it harder for people to access Monero. But the question is the Trump administration looking to go in the other direction? And effectively, they already have. We went over the executive order that Trump put out, and it's essentially as friendly as you can be to Monero as possible. It is making that statement that we want to hear come from the executive branch, come from the Trump administration. He's saying it's perfectly legal to use true cryptocurrencies, public blockchains that are public utilities. It's perfectly legal to use them, to access them, for people to use them, for people to hold their own keys, for for companies to use. So it looks like Europe is going, obviously going more left and more against tools like Monero, and the United States is moving in the opposite direction. So while people are kind of like panicking and being like, oh no, what does this mean? I don't know. The way the game theory might play out is there'll be parts of the world that are onerous against Monero, and then there'll be these other parts of the world that aren't, and those are the parts of the world that will flourish. That's where liberty will flourish. And so Monero, as we always say, is kind of the true litmus test as to where somebody stands with regards to liberty. It looks like Trump admin is moving in that direction. So.
Yeah, so Andy, if you see this, please hop on the show and let's talk about it. Now, let's also talk about France's crypto travel rule regulation. So essentially, and I think this was passed in 2020. Yeah, 2020. So essentially, they have this crypto travel rule in France, and the DASPs are required to collect and transmit the following information for both originators and beneficiaries: the full name, address, date and place of birth, nationality, account number, or unique transaction identifier. So yeah, they're totally against any notion of privacy, and Europe is pretty behind when it comes to these things, unfortunately. But that's insane. Like the account number, where you live, what's your name, where you're from, nationality. That's a lot of information. That's all you need to know. It's crazy. Now let's see. Talking about Europe, so the European Union has officially approved the use of up to 4% UV-treated mealworm powder in food products like bread, cheese, and pasta to be sold in supermarkets. You will eat the bugs. Yeah, that would be... They must put that on the label.
Like I said, America is currently moving in one direction, and Europe is doubling down in the other.
I hope that's not true. I don't think that's going to... They must put it on the label, and if so, then people can read. I don't know. I can just imagine people from Eastern Europe seeing that.
They will eat the bugs. I know, yeah, right. Like in Poland, they're not going to stand for that.
No, Romania neither. No, they'll just say they're crazy. No.
Well, listen. I mean, if people want to go eat bugs, go eat bugs. But like, if it's like being pushed upon people, and like there's like incentives, and it's like somehow becoming the thing that companies want to put in their food, that's fucked up. Right?
Yeah, that's messed up.
If it's basically coming through, like programs like the USAID, right? Is like, all right, like where are these initiatives coming for bugs to be put in the food as a replacement to other protein sources? Is it because of the carbon emission law, rules that are out there, right? So it's like it ends up being obviously more expensive to use traditional methods, right? Use beef and meat and dairy. So they want to push people away from what we know to be the healthiest sources of protein with the full amino acid profiles, taking that out of their diet, all to save the environment, to lower carbon emissions, which we know is in very ways just bullshit. It's used to control people, and doing it in a way where they're now controlling what food they can eat and altering their diets in a way that's deleterious to them. There's no way eating bugs is healthier than eating steak or dairy.
Yeah, for me it's disgusting. And actually, remember last time we were in Miami and I told you that I don't eat meat? I started to eat meat last year, like May or something. Just because I just kept thinking, why is the government so against it?
Yeah.
And I just started to eat meat again. I mean, I do maybe a day without it or stuff like that, but
Right, you're not a big
I was-
meat eater naturally, right? People got to follow their natural whatever they crave, and but I assume you. So how do you feel now that you've been started to eat meat?
I feel good. Yeah, I feel good. My blood work, I do it twice a year. It's good. So no complaints. But yeah, I mean, I read a lot from both camps, kind of, and then my ultimate thing to switch back after quite a couple of years of just not eating it. Just why is the government so against it? I don't find that to be interesting. So I just made a switch just based on that.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's had the Streisand effect.
Yeah. Adam, yes, we're gonna have the price report in a little bit. I have a couple more stuff to talk about, and then we'll go to the price section. Let's talk about now. Let's see. Oh, so that's cool. Hong Kong now officially accepts Bitcoin and crypto as proof of assets to apply for residency. So that's cool. Let's go to this. So Hong Kong government recognizes Bitcoin and Ethereum as proof of assets for investment immigration applications. The thing is, let's see, let's go here. So according to the jurisdiction's legislator, Hong Kong's investment immigration program requires applicants to demonstrate at least 3.85 million in assets. That's a lot of money. Once approved, they must invest this amount within 6 months, traditionally in stocks or other regulated assets. Successful applicants initially receive a 2-year visa. Then they have to renew their visa in a 2-3 cycle. So that's
Really? Wow.
Yeah, but
it's like that difficult to become a. This is to get status in Hong Kong as a resident. What?
But that's a lot of money. So you need 3.85 in assets, I guess. Anything including Bitcoin and Ethereum now.
Wow.
But then I don't get the part in which you must invest this amount within 6 months. Like what they like in Hong Kong stocks or just
Yeah.
or it needs to be invested in something.
I mean, usually they want you to like buy property, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. But they accept Bitcoin, so you can. They didn't say Monero, and you probably don't want to show that you have that much Monero. You're gonna end up on some list. So if you have the Monero, I guess get the Bitcoin, make the transfer, show them a little bit, and then move back to Monero.
Yeah, it sounds like they make you move out of the crypto though. Once approved, they must invest in the amount within 6 months in traditional stocks or other regulated assets. Interesting.
Yeah,
so
that
doesn't sound very pro, right? It sounds like they force you to sell your crypto. I don't get it.
Yeah, that's like show us your Bitcoin, but then sell it and buy some stocks, some Hong Kong stocks.
What?
Yeah,
this does not sound like a good deal.
Yeah, I don't know. But
trying to force money into the Hong Kong stock market.
Yeah.
Makes sense in a way.
So who's gonna do I don't know. It just seems.
Yeah, and that's a lot of money. Like almost $4 million. That's a lot of money. But
and people think it's too hard to get into the United States.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. Now let's talk about first things first. Alexei Betsev has been released. This is the Tornado Cash co-founder. That's another huge win for privacy tech. There we go.
Nice.
And
yeah,
so Roman Storm.
Yeah, I don't know the details of what happened. I mean, so he won the case. Obviously, they let him out. I didn't really dive deep into that.
Yeah, I don't know much about it either. But Roman Storm is petitioning and this is very important. So he's petitioning the Supreme Court to stop an order that would make him disclose his defense strategy to the government. If he loses this case, the US would become the first jurisdiction to enforce FATF's excessively overreaching Recommendation 66, which would classify any software touching cryptocurrency as a money service business required to employ quasi-AML programs.
We gotta have like Lola on the show. She presented at Monerotopia remotely, which is amazing that she did. It was so awesome. Would love to get her up here. I mean, she follows this stuff so closely. So I'm a little confused. So the other guy, because they were both Tornado Cash, right? Roman and Sterling, right? They're both the Tornado Cash people, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Then you got what's going on with the Samurai guys, and then you have the Roman. He was the Bitcoin Fog guy. He's currently screwed. They're trying to appeal that. But so one guy got off, and now this guy looks like he might not get off. Like, well, I don't even know what was the difference in the cases. Tux, have you been following that, like the Tornado Cash stuff?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, we got to look into that more deeply. I'm curious.
Yeah, I haven't followed it too closely. I can just assume that maybe Roman was way more involved somehow than Alexei, and stuff that they didn't like about the whole process. Maybe that's why he's still on hold and he's not.
Yeah, and in different jurisdictions. I don't even know, man.
Yeah, so I don't know, but one of them is free. So, somebody said release, but just from pre-trial detention.
Oh, okay. So he hasn't even gone through trial. Yeah.
Huh, okay. Yeah, so I guess we'll talk about it hopefully in the next couple of weeks to see some updates on it. And the last thing that I have for this week's news section is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez talking shit about Elon Musk, saying how he's probably one of the most unintelligent billionaires she ever met. So let's watch this video and comment a little bit.
This dude is probably one of the most unintelligent billionaires I have ever met or seen or witnessed. Which, you can probably even glean that from watching these people on TV. Anyways, all of that is to say is that they don't do their homework. Clearly, like, they're putting 19-year-olds in at the Treasury. This dude is...
I should go run against AOC.
And the danger in the lack of intelligence and the lack of expertise that Elon has. I mean, this guy is one of the most morally vacant, but also just least knowledgeable about these systems that we really know of. But the point is that what that means is that they're going to hit a button inevitably. They are going to hit a button and things can go sideways.
You can't.
One of the smartest, most successful people in the world is one of the least knowledgeable people that we know of. We've determined Elon to be one of the least knowledgeable in terms of how these systems. Yeah, because he's not a systems guy. He's not a freaking genius when it comes to understanding systems. He can understand the most complex systems in the world, but he can't understand the government and how to fix it. Yes, only AOC can fix it.
Where is this button? This button of destruction, absurd. And can I press it?
I want to press it too. Yeah, you can say, even if, let's say, Elon Musk, according to you, doesn't have emotional intelligence, you can say that he's not intelligent. He created Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink. Max M said, "Are you guys worshiping Elon?" No, I'm not worshiping Elon, but you can say that he's not intelligent. Whether you agree, I don't agree with some stuff he does. With some, yes. I don't trust government, but corporatists are not better. Yeah,
I think Elon's subversive, but he's a reasonably smart person. I mean, obviously,
yeah, man.
He knows what he's doing, whether he's genuine or not.
Yeah, he's gotten tremendous businesses off the ground, right?
Yeah. That you can't.
Well,
say, right?
partially on the
say
back of U.S.
he's
taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, but he's whatever. He still figured it out and got it up and running, man. That takes intelligence. Takes a lot of intelligence. Did he manipulate the system and get money from the federal government? Okay. Yeah. Bought X. I think overall he's done a fantastic job with X.
Is it actually a W, manipulating the government to get money? That might actually be a win.
Yeah. He's just good at it. Recommend everybody try to do that. Bawdy, what does Bawdy say? AOC reminds me of Billy Joel and the waitresses practicing politics as the businessman slowly gets stoned. This is very true. Yeah.
At some point, like I think last year, people were posting love memes between Elon and AOC, which was quite funny at the time. Yeah, but you can't, whether you like him or not, I have mixed feelings about him, but you can't say that he's not intelligent. That's for sure. Yeah,
I love that he's eliminating all these departments in the federal government. So we'll see what ultimately happens, right? He's gonna put AI into the federal government. It'll be running off of his software somehow. I don't know what's gonna be going. You got Palantir sitting there ready to strike. Yeah, there's obviously a lot of bad, but right now we're seeing the good, which is them just eliminating departments.
yes.
The main concern is that the vast elimination of departments are going to save money so they can give it to a specific country in the Middle East.
Oh yeah, that's what's happening. They're
Well, literally yesterday, $7 billion arms deal was sent to Israel on behest of the U.S. taxpayer.
Okay.
So, yeah.
How did we not pull up Trump saying that he wants to go build Trump towers in Gaza? How did we not play that?
Oh
clip?
my word!
Okay,
let me see if I can.
Yeah, talk about news of the week.
Yeah,
We saw this one coming. By the way, guys, like Trump said this during when he was campaigning. He made multiple comments towards that. He's like, "It's a beautiful place, Gaza. Really fix it up. It's a demolition site, but we could put,
What do you guys think about
that?" I mean, I think it's pretty disgusting.
Yeah,
it's very disgusting.
That we've used the power of the government to go in and demolish, a people, kick them out, and so Trump can go build his buildings. I mean, because that's essentially what it is.
Yep.
Yeah, people get all right. Well, now they're saying this is like because Trump said this. Now other countries are stepping up and saying they'll donate funds to rebuild. All right, was that like?
Well, see, what's gonna happen is that the U.S. is rebuilding. That's better than just giving it to Israel, but it's gonna be given to the. We're gonna be
Israel at that point.
Our money is gonna be used to build it for them. That's
it's gonna be an extension. It's an extension of Israel at that point. If the U.S. is rebuilt, it's not like little U.S. land. Like, come on.
No. Yep. There's not going to be
Israel already is little U.S. land, right? I mean, so it's yeah. I don't know, man.
And this is in no way an interest of even American citizens, right? This is not remotely America first. This is just maybe federal interest, but I think it's primarily Israel's interest.
Right. That's what we need to focus on, right? So if he wants to be Ron Paul or whatever, get out of these affairs, right? You shouldn't be let Israel do its Israel thing. This
is why when I look at DOGE now, I'm just like, DOGE is just a cover so that the U.S. can continue doing more bigger expansions underneath. Be like, oh, we got rid of all this and this and this, but we're also taking over and militarily occupying and rebuilding this entire.
It's also the distraction too, right? Look, we're doing this. Talk about you want to get everybody's eyes on something. Have DOGE just start eliminating federal governments while you're also pitching over here that we're gonna go into Gaza and build Trump Tower, and everybody's like,
and the Buc-ee's.
Trump definitely has everybody distracted because there's just like he's just doing so many different things. You don't know which ones are good, which ones are bad. But the Israel thing is, I don't know. That's pretty.
It's super messed up.
Crazy.
It's messed up, but at the same time, these things are so big, Doge doing what he does and him doing what he does, that you kind of can't be distracted, you know? Okay, Doge eliminated this department. Oh, and then, yeah, Trump did this big
And I'm
thing
sure
as well.
Trump will backpedal because that's what he did so much in his first term, right? He'd say really extreme shit and then backpedal. Now he's actually getting a lot of extreme things done. But something like this one, I think you're going to see a backpedal on it. Like, well.
There's already a lot of surprising counters to this decision that have been made from people I wasn't expecting, which makes me start to rethink like who's really at benefit with it. So even the Warhawk neocon Lindsey Graham actually came out in opposition to Trump saying that we would send people into Gaza and take it over, essentially. So that's interesting.
What did he say? What was like?
Well, he basically came out in opposition of it, and he said that he doesn't think it's a good idea, and he doesn't think the citizens of South Carolina would like the U.S. to militarily occupy Gaza, which is kind of like, hold on a second, because Lindsey Graham is like always been calling. He's always been obsessed with Israel and thus going to war with Iran. So it's kind of interesting to see him say that. Kind of makes me take a step back and almost think about like who's really at benefit here. But yeah, I don't know if it's gonna happen as easily as Trump says it will. There's actually a lot of Republican opposition, it seems like. So we'll see what happens.
Someone tipped 20 cents. Elon and his gang will ensure that 1984 establishes itself very quickly. What they say is not what they do. It's all about maintaining power and accumulating wealth. The normal American is getting fucked more and more. Yeah.
Yeah, people like to forget that.
The real fight is right against technocracy, right? There's
which Elon Musk is kind of like pioneering. Yeah. Let's be honest here.
Whether it's the Dems in there or the Republicans in there, the question is technocracy winning or not? And yes, with Trump in there and Palantir sitting in the White House, unfortunately, I can't see how we won't trend towards that. But then you see that executive order that says, "Hey, everybody can use Monero." So I don't know. They're throwing us a bone with that one.
I found the clip. Do you want me to play it? It's the meeting of Netanyahu and Trump.
Yeah, play it.
Yeah, sure.
All right, let me pull this up real quick.
I mean, it looked like Netanyahu's very surprised here, which is interesting too. Like he's using this to negotiate and like mess with Netanyahu.
To go back, the only reason the Palestinians want to go back to Gaza is they have no alternative. It's right now a demolition site. This is just a demolition site. Virtually every building is down. They're living under fallen concrete that's very dangerous and very precarious. They instead can occupy all of a beautiful area with homes and safety, and they can live out their lives in peace and harmony instead of having to go back and do it again. The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create and
Netanyahu does not look like he was aware of this.
Unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job, do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years.
He's like, oh shit.
He's like, oh, we're doing that now. All right.
That's what some people pointed out, but I think it's still kind of like that. That might actually be like you might be happy about that. Be like, oh, the U.S. is going to build this place for us. Whoa, that's So, yeah, it's stupid. There's absolutely no reason we should be doing anything over there. And Trump says, oh, it's going to end up exactly the way it was if we just let them back there. Well, it's like, okay, who kind of caused this, in the first place, right?
Is it true he gave Trump a golden beeper?
Yes, he gave Trump a real pager and then also a golden pager.
Oh,
Yep.
he gave him a real one too.
Yeah, he gave him a real one and a golden one. Trump's gonna, yeah. Either that was like really
so like
really
if you mess with us, we're gonna blow up your pager. like what's going on there?
either that was a really sick joke between friends or it was a threat. There's no other way to interpret that.
Yeah, like why would anybody take a pager from the guy who just blew people up with pagers? There's no way that's incredible. Why do you give him both? Why do you give him a regular pager and a golden one?
Because the real one's got the bombs in it. Gold one's just for like no, because that one's not for use. That one's just to look pretty, sit at the desk. The real one's for personal use to be on you at all times.
Crazy. That was bizarre. Did Trump say anything in the reaction? Most beautiful pager.
Not that I saw.
Most beautiful beeper.
And did you see the clip of where Trump pulled out and put the chair back in for Netanyahu as he was sitting down? It looked so subservient the way in which he was doing it.
No, I didn't see that.
Oh yeah, I saw that. That was odd for Trump to do that. Has he done that to any other?
I don't think so.
Male? Like, is that a thing?
It looked. It looked like like such a subservient thing.
I mean,
crazy.
he was being a gentleman, but it's not really like Trump to do. I don't know. Maybe it is. I don't know. The greatest tip, 25 cents. I don't mean to whine too much about politics, but who from the Monero community would Doug nominate to run for Congress? I don't know. Not Vic. Yeah, no, I don't think Vic ain't running for Congress. He's not wasting his time doing that shit.
Vic doesn't have time for that.
It's got to be like a sucker like me, like when I did it in 2020. It's not something that. It takes a crazy person. You gotta be a little crazy.
Gotta be a psychopath.
Yeah.
Or a sociopath, at least.
You do. That's why I really wasn't. When I got to the end, I was like, "Oh man, what happens if I actually win?" I was like, "This is gonna be." I was like, "I want out. I don't want to win." It's a weird thing.
Make sure all these super chats are read. This one, 25 cents from Big Dick America. Audit the IRS and then abolish it. So true, Big Dick America. And we've got JJ, tip 25 cents. I appreciate all the work you guys do. Monero Talk is a brilliant podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, JJ. Well,
yeah, I think we got one more here. Gray Popin tipped $1. To tip the workers directly, you may now donate towards a tuxedo at his site. I honestly think getting him a tux will improve the content. It's okay, guys. You don't need to give me money for a tux. There's much more worthy causes to be donating money to.
Pull
I
that kudo
appreciate
up, though.
the sentiment.
Let's see it. Let's see if people are going to donate. That's funny.
Let's see. Wait, actually send a link. I didn't even look. Can't really copy links from here.
Trump is definitely selling access to the golden pager number. Yeah, we got to hook him up with XMRchat, so you pay Monero to send Trump a text. And he gets it on his golden
Okay, so
pager.
apparently there's two. For some reason there's two. I don't know who actually created this, so please do not donate to these because I have no idea where this money is going, and there's two of them. And once again, there are much better causes for you to be putting your money towards. But yeah. Thanks for I appreciate the sentiment. Oh, I'm not even sharing my screen. Oops. There we go. There's one and there's two. I don't know why there's two of them, but there's two. Tuxedos are expensive. But once again, I don't know who this is. I don't know where this money's going.
I like the low quality picture that the person just put in it. That's funny.
All right. Thank you so much for doing the news, Tony. I think Doug went AFK for a second here. But we will probably go ahead and move into the guest segment. And yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate
and have a good weekend.
We'll
Thank
see you
guys.
next week.
See
You
you.
too. All right. We're going to go ahead and move into the guest segment. Today, our special guest is Nihilist.
The Monerotopia guest segment is sponsored by Cake Wallet. Store, send, receive, and exchange your Monero and Bitcoin safely on iOS and Android too. Cake Wallet is open source, and you always control your own keys.
All right, Nihilist, how's it going? Get your mic connected. All right, all good, friend. All right, looks like Nihilist is resetting his mic here. It's all good, Nihilist. Hashtag just Linux things. This happens to me all the time. I always have to restart my browser. All right, let's see if it works this time.
Hey,
Hey, there you are. Heard you loud and clear. Yep. Hashtag just Linux things.
Yeah. I don't know. It was the browser. I had to restart it.
I have to do that every so often. If I have to restart Pipewire for any reason, then I have to restart all the applications that actually use Pipewire, or else I won't pick up my microphone or outputs. Yeah, how's it going?
Yeah, doing good. Thanks. I wanted to be. I'm glad. I'm honored to be a guest again on the show.
Yep. I know we've had you before. I think once or twice at least.
Just once. It was for the Havino showcasing.
Ah, yes, that's right.
So I don't know what you want me to showcase, but if you want, I can give some background on me.
Yeah, go ahead. Tell us what you do, what you're about, how long you've been in the Monero community, and how you got to Monero.
So at first, I started my blog, whose link you can see in my bio here. I started this blog as a hacking write-up thing. So I used to be a big, hack the box player, where basically I would showcase how I hacked into servers, basically. So that was my first passion. And then after some time, it got too repetitive, and I decided to switch up my passion to something else. I moved on to sysadmin topics like self-hosting mostly, where I would showcase, hey, here's how you can have your own, Google Drive replacement like Nextcloud and something like that. And I would showcase just about anything, any service you could host at your own house, and that was the second passion I had. And after some time, so it occurred to me that just privacy was not enough. Like I would see on the news like the governments would become more and more tyrannical, more and more authoritarian. And I decided to dive into OPSEC big time. And that's now my main focus and passion, actually, where I decided that the blog would become about, privacy first. Then it would be about anonymity. And lastly, it would be about deniability. So that's the three goals I now chase on the blog. And I try to, I try to bring some quality in the blog I'm maintaining, where you can't just go on the streets, and you can't just tell a random guy, hey, use Monero. Like they don't know what you're talking about, and they don't know why they should use it. So I have a methodology as to how I write those blog posts, and that is I always start with the why. Why should you care? Why should you care about installing Linux? Why should you care about using Monero? Why Havino? Why XYZ? It always starts with why should you use it, right? That's the first thing I try to cover, and I I try to do that extensively so that everyone gets to know the full background on why we keep talking about freedom tech all the time. And afterward, once the why has been explained, I tell the audience, here's what are your options. And out of those options, here's the best option. And then after the why, there's the what. After the what, there's the how. So in this how section, quote unquote, I showcase basically how to implement, how to set up your own Monero wallet, how to install Linux, how to set up Havino, XYZ. That's the main methodology I try to keep up with on the blog. So it takes a little more time to output some blog posts, but it's well worth the effort, honestly. The overall quality of the blog, I mean, I've had some positive feedback, even though I don't have much visibility. But yeah, that's the general background on the blog. Yeah.
Yeah. So regarding like the why, I think that's definitely the hardest thing to communicate to some people, because a lot of people, like what we would call, I guess, air quote normies, they don't really care about privacy, and they also don't they don't know why you should. They don't realize. So what's kind of your go-to when someone's like, it doesn't matter, or they see everything already anyways, or when they just simply don't care?
So when you have to explain the why to someone, for me, you need to tell them a little story, because if they don't relate to the why, you missed it. My go-to, my way of doing it is you basically you tell them a story, right? So you tell them, hey, is it okay for you if your annoying neighbor just stops by and looks at what you're doing in your bedroom? Like, is that okay for you? And like, most people would say no to that, right? So they understand afterward, after you tell them that story, that okay, you want privacy then. You want to install, some blinds on your windows, right? So that the neighbor can see what you're doing, right? So in the same way, that's one way of doing it, I think. You give them a story that they can relate to, and then you make a parallel to it, to what's in your computer. So in this case, your computer is the bedroom, and the annoying neighbor is, whatever company tries to spy on you, like Microsoft, like Apple, like Google. These are the big players, but you get what I'm saying. And yeah, once this why is solid, you can go ahead and preach the word. So that's my methodology.
Yeah, usually I just ask them if I can put like a live streaming camera in their bathroom, and usually like 9 times out of 10 the answer is no.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but the thing is, if you start with, hey, install Monero, that doesn't work. Like, you need to explain why they should care first. And for Monero specifically, it's private digital cash.
Yeah, I think Monero is actually a pretty good gateway into like privacy pilling people, because it's really easy to say that Monero is what people think Bitcoin is. And almost every single time I've explained how Bitcoin actually works to people, they're like, whoa, that's totally not good. Like, why would I want to do transactions on a public ledger and everyone can see how much I currently have in my wallet? So that's really easy for people to understand, is that like financial privacy. So I think Monero is a really good gateway into like actually like people understanding privacy just in general digitally.
Yeah, you first need to explain the concept of privacy. So that's the first thing I try to do on my blog. If you don't mind, I can share my screen, by the way, so I can
go ahead.
show it. Share screen. To browser. Allow. Let me know if it's visible.
Yep, got it.
There we go. So basically, the blog is structured like this. We first go over the basic concepts. what are privacy, anonymity, etc. And we go about the general practice of operational security, where I basically explain here's how you segment your internet users. Like you have public use, you have private use, you have anonymous use, and lastly you have sensitive use. And so I try to do it gradually. So first we start with privacy. What is privacy? Why is it important? Why you can't trust closed source software for privacy? What is encryption? And then getting started. How to install Linux, how to install Graphene, how to install OpenWRT. So it's not there yet, but it's on the way. How to use SimpleX for easy private chats, how to set up CubesOS, and from there it goes on and grabs up its difficulty. The second part is where we showcase how to achieve anonymity, and that's the biggest part of the blog right now. I decided to go really in depth into it. So we go over what is anonymity, why it's important, and we go over why phone numbers are compatible with anonymity, etc. How to use Tor, how to use Monero, and in here, that's where I think the audience here might be very interested. Like, why is financial decentralization? Why is it important? Why should you even use cryptocurrencies, exchanges, and all that? Of course, the meat of the subject: how to set up your own Monero wallet, how to use Havino, and since last time I showcased Havino on the show, I only had the first one. So it was direct fiat to Monero transaction, but face to face. And I wrote the rest like a few weeks afterward, I think, where I basically showcase how to do the other main fiat payments, like bank transfer for Monero, peer to peer, anonymously. Same with cash by mail, and I have some more also, like. That's a recent one that I got completed.
You gotta get XMR Bazaar on there, man. Teach people how to buy and sell directly for Monero. That's a good goal, right? We want people just opting out and using this stuff.
See number 4 here. It's planned. So in this one, that's planned. I want to showcase how to get your first Monero. When you don't have Monero to start with, you only have fiat. How do you get your first Monero, right? So that's where I plan to showcase XMR Bazaar and and other options as well. But yeah, I already mentioned XMR Bazaar a few times in some of my blog posts, and I even have a listing on Monero Bazaar actually, because on this blog we accept contributions from other people. And they received from 10 to 50 euros per new complete blog post. And I've been paying already more than 10 to 20 contributions since I started. I mean,
very cool, man. So wait, people contribute to how does it work? I'm rewarding 10 to 50 euros in Monero for people that come and write blog posts. Very cool.
Yeah. So basically, I have this project. Let me show you quickly. Project board. Yeah. So I have this project board where I listed all the blog posts I want there to be written on the blog, right? And I listed them, first in the to be brainstorm section. Then we move them to be assigned, then move them into doing. So that's when I assign, the blog post to someone. And then it's to be reviewed, and then it's completed, and that's where I send the payment to the user.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, that's an easy way of getting some Monero if you are a technical person and you can actually convey your knowledge to the noobs out there.
What's the easiest way for people to find it? What's the link? It's just an onion link?
You can go on blog.nowhere.moe, and that's the previous domain it used to be. But now recently we moved to a darknet only architecture, where as you can see, it's an onion link. But let me show you. Blog nowhere Mori. And as you can see, it basically redirects you to the onion link instead. And there you go. So you need the Tor browser to be able to access it, but once you're in it, you can see all of the links of the
Very
links
cool.
there. And recently, since we moved to the darknet, because the reasoning is actually that when you are talking about privacy and freedom tech in general, you want to reduce your attack surface as much as possible. So for that, one thing you need to understand is when you have a website that is on the ClearNet, if the government acts wild suddenly and decides to take down your website, they can go on to many different places. Like they can go to the registrar, they can go to the cloud provider, they can go, they can go wherever, and your attack surface is very wide. But when you are on Onion Link instead, they have no registrar to subpoena, they have no cloud provider to subpoena either, and they have to find where the website is, So if they don't know where to shoot, where can they shoot? That's the idea.
Do you think by making it Tor only, it harms the visibility of your blogs and the ease of access? I understand the point that you're going for, though, is that by forcing everybody to go to the Tor, that's the one that they save. So in the case of like if people just use the ClearNet version, it gets taken down. Well, that's it. They might not have had the Tor link, the onion link saved, so they don't know where to go. But do you think it might hurt the visibility for people who are new, who aren't already using Tor, or might not feel like installing it?
I'm very glad you mentioned that, because that's the main issue of the darknet that I'm trying to solve with my recently launched project. So it's called the Darknet Lantern. So in short, it's a search engine for the darknet specifically. The thing is, on Onion Links specifically, you depend on people running their list of links to be able to find those websites. So the main idea of this project is to organize this discoverability and visibility issue for Onion websites. So, for example, XMR. Here you can see I listed the XMR Bazaar and some other, links on my Darknet Lantern instance. And for instance, here, the idea is you list basically onion links yourself, and you can categorize them, differently, like blogs, chat, collaboration, etc. Let me show you. So I have already listed a few of them. Like I have some blog posts, some communities that are only reachable via Onion. And the idea actually is, if in case if this entire instance is taken down, the idea is to have a web ring, and the web ring at the end is basically, for example, a web ring is basically you have one website that goes to many other websites. It goes to many other communities. And the idea of joining a web ring is that your community gets to have the cumulated visibility of all of the other participating communities. And the thing is that in the darknet specifically, you may run your own community with an onion link, right? But you may not be aware that there are many other communities, many other small communities that are also running the same onion, onion only, architecture. And that's my project right now. I'm trying to solve this visibility issue by you need to have a Google for the darknet, right? You need to be able to search for onion links, and so that's what I'm trying to solve here.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. So the goal is that you've got, like, I'm guessing, if I'm understanding this correctly, is that there's dozens of other people that are also part of this web ring, and they all give each other some data, or they all like have the same data.
So basically, for now, I'm the only one in this web ring, so I'm trying to getting started. But the idea is to have as many people as possible from different communities, and everyone in this web ring, they explore the darknet just like I'm doing. They list their onion links, and the thing is, by participating in this web ring specifically, so they will be displayed here. The thing is, by participating in it, every other web ring participant gets to automatically have, they can automatically get the links that they are listing. For example, if you participate in it and you list, 20,000 onion links that I didn't have, automatically with a Python script in the backend, I can just automatically get them and list them in the unverified links section, and then manually I can verify them, and then they move up to this this other section here. So these are all the websites I have listed and used in the past, and I just verified them, and if there were a phishing link to appear in this part here, I could also blacklist it and make sure that it's not seen anymore by my community, at least.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and also the goal here is to de-demonize the use of onion links, because I know that there's been a lot of bad press regarding Tor in general, because it's outside of governmental reach, like they don't like it, they say, it's for evil people, whatever.
Many such cases, right?
Yeah. And in the same way that you guys are trying to de-demonize the use of Monero with Monero Bazaar, I'm trying to do the same thing, but with onion links, right? So I went ahead and make this bold move of, going for this darknet only infrastructure. Like, you can only reach our services via the onion link. But we're trying to lead the way here. Like we're here to solve this issue. Like we want this visibility problem fixed, and in the long run, if it works well and goes along the roadmap I envision, you'd have a Google for the darknet in the end. Like you have many people, like a decentralized search engine. That's my idea. Like you have a set of people, set of communities that just search the darknet for you, and you can just join in and have all of their links at once. You can verify them one by one if you want, and in the end, you also participate in this discovering the darknet, for everyone else.
That's really cool. And so, if someone like me, if I wanted to become a part of this web ring, what would I have to do exactly? Obviously, I'd have to be hosting Tor and have a Tor website.
I wrote the tutorial at the end here. How to set up your own instance. Let me show you. So again, following my methodology, as always, I always go with the why, then the what, then the how. So I first explain why it's important. Like, you may have your own community that's isolated somewhere here. I have mine here, and we don't know that each other exists, So this is why it's important. You want to be able to know where to go, basically, in this huge dark forest that the darknet is. So blah, blah, blah. And then I go over how to install it step by step, what it's like. And then how to maintain the list of links, with the Python script in there. In the end, it's just CSV files in the backend. Like...
Just transferring CSV files between each instance.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I also made sure that there was no I tried to pass, malicious inputs in the CSV files, and I also added the safety measures in place to make sure that you can't just put a reverse PHP shell in there. It doesn't work. Like you can't just pass PHP code in there and try to make it run on other Lantern instances. No. I made sure of that. And like I said, we moved to a darknet only infrastructure that goes also with the Git repositories. You just need to go with the link. Also, you have to use TorSox to be able to Git clone the project, and then you can access it. Yeah.
Cool. And I'm assuming that if your instance receives some new links, those ones will be unverified, and each person has to manually verify the links for their own instance, right? Okay.
Yeah. The thing is, the reason why that is because you need to think adversarial a bit. Like
somebody could just give a bunch of totally bogus, like you said, phishing, malicious links.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a good practice to have.
For example, if someone were to join the web ring and then they list a malicious XMR Bazaar link, then if you automatically verify it, that's dangerous, because then your community thinks that, okay, this link is endorsed by this community. I'm going there now. I trust it. No, you should not trust it. You should not trust random links coming from random people. So that's why I make this distinction. Like, I didn't verify those 2 links myself. I know they exist, but I didn't verify them. But Monero Bazaar, I know it, I verified it. And for my community, I tell them, hey, you can go there. I verified it myself. In the end, they should also verify it themselves. But, at least within your own community, you can have some trust there.
Yeah. Is this a project that you kind of started yourself, or is this based off of something that already existed? It seems like it's quite a project.
Yeah, all by myself. Yeah.
Wow.
It took me.
Really cool, man.
It took me, I think, 1.5 months to really get it to this maturity, and like I released it last week, version 1.0. So we still have a roadmap anyway. Where is it? Roadmap. So yeah, I also listed the future versions what I want to have in there. So there's the refactoring and simplifying of the Python scripts, X and XYZ features, and ideally in the long run we want to have I2P support as well.
Yes, I know I2P is becoming a lot more popular, but still is not quite as accessible.
Yeah, on my blog recently, there's been some discussions about it, but the thing is, I want to justify it over Tor. Why should you use I2P instead of Tor? So once that blocker is gone and we have explained it, I'll go and dive into it and showcase how to use I2P, all the same. Okay, and I also have the XMR Bazaar listing for whoever wants to contribute, So just go in the Simplex chat and I will answer to you directly.
Is this like a job listing? A work? Yeah. Wow, cool.
Yep.
So Nihilist will pay you to write good OPSEC blog posts. Obviously, it's got to be good. Don't be sending him rubbish. And probably need to be like a security researcher, but there you go. That's pretty cool. Using XMR Bazaar to give people some work.
Yeah, I really love that.
In short, if you can explain, if you can explain your technical knowledge for the masses, and dump it down a bit, for people to understand, I'm all for it. I've had a few contributors that are, they are not there yet. They can't, explain for the noobs. That I need to correct it a bit. But some others I can just read in diagonal, and I know they nailed it. I've got some really good contributors so far. But yeah, we still have some work to do, and I'm looking forward to paying more Monero for more blog posts.
That's awesome.
Beautiful, man. Yeah, we're looking to add a Reddit kind of blog section to XMR Bazaar itself. maybe once we do that, you I don't know, want to help us make it into something awesome where it becomes a good resource.
Sure, yeah. If you want a forum, right?
Yeah. We haven't really decided on what the format will be of it, but yeah, it'll essentially be a forum.
If you want a forum, you can go with Discourse. I think they provide a solid forum, solution. Let me find it. I don't have it showcased on my blog yet, but you can find it easily. I mean, they've seen a lot of communities spin up a Discourse instance for their forum, for their own community. I think Tor project has it. Let me find it quickly. It looks like that, by the way. Yeah, that's Discourse.
Okay.
Yeah. So in case if you want
like
to.
Yep, we use Discourse for our cake forum too. I definitely recommend it. It's kind of the go-to for open source forum.
Okay.
Yep. In any case, I motivate everyone out there to run their own websites using Onion addresses, and really, you don't need ClearNet at all. If you decide to participate in the WebRing project, Darknet Lantern, I don't think you'll see much of an issue getting visibility in the long run.
Did we add a onion address for XMR Bazaar? I know that we were going to.
You don't have it. I checked it.
Okay. Yeah, we. I don't know why he didn't do that, especially being Anarchio, the guy who he seems to be very Tor oriented.
Well, it'll be a very easy thing to do.
Yeah.
Thankfully, Tor is very easy to set up.
And by the way, Darknet Lantern also supports ClearNet links, as you can see in the bottom left. So it's not like Darknet only and fuck off. No. It's also ClearNet also, if you want.
I mean, adding it as a Tor link, what does it really achieve? Obviously, like if you're hosting the website, right? If we were anonymously putting XMR Bazaar out there, but for allowing people to access it via Onion Link, I mean, I guess it provides security in that way. That
gives them more privacy.
Gives them more privacy when they're interacting with the website.
It's different. It's first a matter of simplifying the architecture. Like to have a ClearNet website, you need a domain. You need most likely a VPS. You need to, maybe if you self-host it, you need to port forward from your home router. You know, the last discussion we had with Arctic Mine on the previous show. And if you want a website on Tor, you simply need a device, internet access, and Tor. Easy. You don't need anything else. You don't need to pay a company. You don't need to pay for a domain. You don't need to pay for a server. You need electricity and a device.
No, I love that. But like for us, right? Because we're obviously always going to have the ClearNet version of XMR Bazaar. So what is the benefit? It has to be the benefits related to the visitors, right? So what's the benefit to the visitors if they're interacting with XMR Bazaar via
the benefits? Tor? The benefits for the visitor is that they can access the website anonymously.
Right.
And it comes down to reducing the attack surface and allowing the client side to reduce their attack surface as well. And just remaining anonymous when they use XMR Bazaar in general.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'll remind Anarchio to put that out there. But yeah, XMR Bazaar would never be like, a Tor only. I mean, we want to be really accessible to people. And then obviously we're not ourselves hiding, who's behind the project or where it's being run or, anything like that. Let me ask you, man, I don't want to assume things here, and I think you may have said it in the past, but I don't know if it's just an accent, but what do you think of the recent legislation that's being put forth in France with regards to banning mixers, and it seems like they're describing Monero as well.
They're paranoid over here. Like they want control. They want to do everything to keep that control. And frankly, I've seen it coming. Like it was only a matter of time. And yeah, like I see them ban. In France, and yes, I'm French. In France, you, as a business, you are forced to have a bank account. Like, you have no choice. You are forced to have one. That says a lot. They want control from the get-go, and once you have a bank account, you are made vulnerable to their legislations. And that extends to the users. That extends everywhere. Like, they are heavy on regulations and heavy on punishment as well. And yeah.
what is the actual current state? I wasn't totally clear on what. So was that legislation fully passed? Is this something that's being proposed? What is it actually saying? What are the actual real world effects? What's the state?
I'm not familiar with it really, but one thing is for sure: they have a CBDC coming. They have the digital euro coming.
Monero is currently not accessible on any exchange in France, in Europe. Is that true or no?
Well,
it's
no.
delisted from Kraken.
You can go on Havino and you can access it.
Of course. I'm saying centralized exchange.
That's a good question. Like, I've been saying this for a long time. It's only a matter of time until it gets delisted everywhere, especially in Europe. They're cracking down on it. That's for sure.
Yeah, it seems like there's kind of been like a sort of direction shift between the U.S. and Europe, where the U.S. is actually.
Oh wait, we have Andy Fitch.
Yeah, we do have Andy. Can you bring him up?
Yeah, Nihilist, you did a great job. Greatly appreciate it. Greatly appreciate all the work you're doing, and this is obviously out of your passion for being pro privacy tech. Obviously, you're always welcome to come up on the stage, and I appreciate you getting the word out to people about XMR bazaars, kind of including that is your list of things that you think important utility for people to use that are trying to use these tools in the best way. So appreciate all your work, man. You're always welcome to come up and keep us updated on what you're putting out there.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, super cool project. I'll definitely check it out. And yeah, that's some cool work you're doing.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, Nihilist.
Let's run the guest segment again. Let's run it again. One more time,
double guest.
Double guest. We don't have much time, Andy, but I'm sure you're a busy guy too. Let's go. Go ahead.
The Monerotopia guest segment is sponsored by Cake Wallet. Store, send, receive, and exchange your Monero and Bitcoin safely on iOS and Android too. Cake Wallet is open source, and you always control your own keys.
All right. Andy, thanks for jumping up. Appreciate it.
Hi, thanks. It's a pleasure to meet you all. And it's a pity that Nihilist already left, because as a French people, maybe he has something to say a little bit more. But you say you have not that much time. I hope you hear me well. So I jump directly.
We hear you. We can bring Nihilist back up for a second or two if you needs to, if you have a question for him. But go ahead.
Okay. At first, I'm a German, I don't know how to, founder of a company who simply say I'm a crypto entrepreneur. I consult people about cryptocurrency, private smartphones, and so on. And you wrote this article about this friend's law draft or draft law, and I dig a bit into it, and I share my screen for you so we can talk about this.
Awesome. Yeah, let us know what's going on there. Is it what it seems?
No, I don't think so. That's
okay.
Something I can tell you. Great. Okay, that is the German version that don't help you. That is the France version that won't help us all. But just to see, this is a segment where we are talking about, and now we're going to translate it into the great English version. DeepL is a very great translator. I really appreciate it and I love it.
Agreed.
Great. Okay, and now we see here, all about is the custom code of France. So there you can say some things about how money travels through the country, comes into the country and can leave the country. And how some people transact in the country. So if you visit this part, this article, this is the interesting part. It's article 415.1, and we can take a look at the code. Oh no, the page is gone. Ah, no, here it is. Okay, that's the French version. And I don't know, I guess you can't see. Huh? Oh, okay, great. The article says, okay, we think, the state thinks you do something illegal. And as long as you can't prove that you didn't do something illegal, you are guilty. So they reverse the legal burden of proof. So I have now to prove that I'm innocent.
Guilty until proven innocent, essentially.
That's what I say. And if you take a look here, they just bring it to anonymous cryptocurrencies and they bring it to mixers for transparent currencies. That's totally correct. But now it's interesting. When you have a usual business, like me as a consultant, or the bakery or a grocery store, whatever, we all have to create and receive receipts or receipts. I don't know how to pronunciate it right.
Receipts. Yep.
Thank you. And there you can say, well, look there, I can prove I have made this payment because I got something, and that's the reason why I got this money. And I have to send this money because I have here an invoice what I need to pay, or which I need to pay. And that's the simple trick of this law. It is not a real nightmare, but in a world perspective, it is this sort of
so how will this affect Monero users living in France? Like what would if they were to abide by this, like how could this enter into their lives, and what way are they going to see this? Where they may be asked for like proof of funds, like where did you get?
Usually custom codes belong only to companies or to very rich people, which are usually viewed as an entrepreneur. But if you just a normal guy who go to work day for day, 24/7 or 24/5, this law may not interest you. It doesn't bother you in any manner. So,
okay, it's not a banning of Monero and privacy crypto tools for normal people to use.
There is a really hard, even in the Monero community, a very hard belief, which is wrong, that Monero is illegal or will be illegal in some months or years, whatever. But that is totally wrong, because if they really want to ban anonymous currencies like Monero, just for proving I like Monero.
I like that shirt. Very nice.
Thanks. Just for they had already banned Monero with MiCAR. MiCAR is this huge European regulation about cryptocurrencies. Yeah, it's markets in crypto assets regulation. That's a long name, and they just say, "Oh, you are a custodian. You're not allowed to use anonymous cryptocurrencies under certain circumstances." Hard to pronunciate for German people, trust me. If you now jump into this, what the law really says is, please use a non-custodial wallet. So I say thank you, European Union, for making these laws, because it's so hilarious. It's so late, I'm sorry. So I really don't think that they want ban Monero.
And so how about Monero just being listed on centralized exchanges? are exchanges legally allowed to list and sell Monero?
No, and not in Europe. If you have maybe Kraken, whatever, has at the moment a European country, European or German company which deals.
Oh, Kraken, you're saying? Kraken?
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you. The big exchange with
Right,
the
they delisted Monero in Europe.
yes, and they will keep it like this because they don't interested in some heavy legal disputes with the European.
And it's really the MiCA regulations that force them to do that.
Yeah.
And so
in connection with the TOFA.
Does there just need to be, you think, regulatory clarity, and it needs to be shown that it actually really isn't illegal for them to list Monero, and or is it actually illegal for them to list Monero?
It's hard. If you're in Germany, there will come a German law which says it is prohibited or illegal to list anonymous cryptocurrencies. So for the German market, it is totally clear it will become illegal for a CASP, a crypto asset service provider, or a custodian to use, list, accept, or do whatever with Monero. It's illegal. But if you are a bakery, if you are a company, whatever, they say use it. Done.
So yeah, it's kind of similar to New York, effectively.
Yeah.
Right? It's perfectly legal to accept Monero, to spend Monero, peer-to-peer. And obviously there's a lot of arguments why that's a good thing, because it just pushes people to use Monero in the best way possible. How do you see things, though, playing out in Europe, kind of on a, in the coming years with regards to Monero?
The European Union is a nightmare from perspective of from the perspective of regulation, from politics. It's just a nightmare. Most days, I can't say too much because your enemies listen all the time. What I want to say is, if we watch this from a role perspective, all what we're seeing, this totally surveillance, this growing force or these growing demands of control from side of the state, it just says we are. I don't know the English word. It's something like failing state is the word. Just European is degrading or decheesing or whatever it says in English, and there have to be a new system, and they're fighting against the new system is upcoming, and that's what we're seeing now. But about banning Monero in general or anonymous cryptocurrencies, I personally think that will never happen because they done something very stupid from my perspective, but good for us. The constitutions of the Western states guarantees property, and when they listed these anonymous cryptocurrencies in general as a financial instrument, they gave them a really high rank of property. So they say, oh, sorry, we can't ban something because it would be against our constitution. And breaking law is some common in Europe, but breaking a constitution is way more hard. They need something like Corona or a really big war, and then they can do it. So that's my statement to this point.
All right, interesting. How do you feel about the adoption of Monero in general in Europe, in Germany, Nihilist in France? I mean, do you see it growing, staying stagnant?
Cryptocurrencies in general. Germany is a very lazy, or in technical terms, a lagging state. The most people here are happy with cash. And
right, but it's a big cash, right? People are used to using cash, so you would think they'd want some digital form of that. Like they understand cash in Germany.
usually, if you come with something like Bitcoin, they say, technical bullshit, I don't understand, what is this? And they're not interested in. But if you tell them, well, your cash is gonna go in a few years because government bans it because they own this money, it's not yours, then they start to get interested. If you then say there is a form of digital cash, they get really big ears and want to listen further. Like Nihilist say before, you need a strong why, then you need a what, and at least an how. But if you say there is something like Bitcoin or whatever, then you say it's transparent. Everybody with your address can see what you are doing and will see what you are doing in future. The most normal people say, go away with this. I don't want this. And afterwards,
It's good instincts.
Usually people react like this. Or if I have some consultants in front of a lot of people, I don't know the English word, then usually the folk is very shocked if I say, well, look here, that's a Bitcoin address, and here you see the statement, and so on. They're really shocked. And then they are really like craving for Monero, even if they don't know Monero exists. But a few sites later, I say, well, here's Monero, use it, it's great. And some people love this wow effect. But to your question at the beginning, it is slow. The acceptance or the growing acceptance is very slow.
Do you think we could get something like an XMR Bazaar to start to grow in Germany? Get people to start using it peer to peer, realizing that it's cash because they understand cash. It's really just a marketing They need to know that cash is going to be eliminated and that this is the replacement.
At first, you need people who really understand that a government could be problematic. Like our German law enforcement show his lovely nature during the corona pandemic or whatever, and was really harsh to people, control people, surveil people, folks, and so on. And like 30% of the people say, no, we don't want this. They realized the state is not our friend. And I think these 30% will be ready to accept something like cash, but digital. Yes. There is a market and something like XMR Bazaar. Yes.
It's good to hear. Jack saying, I heard there's a German guy from Cake Wallet running meetups in Germany. That's cool. That's good to know. Do you know of any meetups that are happening, Monero-related meetups? Do you see that ever going down in Germany?
Yeah. I know who's meant, but I know who is very into privacy, so I don't mention his name here.
Okay.
So.
Okay. All right, man. Andy, thank you so much. Greatly appreciate you jumping on. Anything else you want to get out there? Anything you want to shill? Anything you want to let people know about that you're working on, or?
Every privacy-focused guys out there, I love you all. Douglas, it was a pleasure to be here. I hope sometimes later again, and have a nice day or evening. I don't know.
Thanks for coming on, man, and giving us some context
Andy,
with that. It's really great.
It was
Thanks,
fantastic. Yeah, we were looking for a better understanding of that. Thank you so much, Andy. You're always welcome to jump on anytime. Greatly appreciate that.
Just
have a good night. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye.
And maybe we'll run into each other at some point. Maybe at MoneroCon. Awesome. Who knows?
Not we'll do a quick scan for super chats before we move on into the price. Super insightful tip, 25 cents. Trump is definitely selling access to the golden pager number. Sojourner tipped $10. GM Kings, this will be worth billions one day. Thank you so much, Sojourner. And Wise One tip 25 cents. You don't need to sell privacy to people. You really don't. Apple has the biggest advertising budget in the world. They sell, quote, privacy. Quote, I don't care about privacy is a quote because people justifiably don't think they can get control over their privacy. Yeah, I think that's definitely somewhat true. People do get tricked by Apple's sell for privacy. All right. I guess we will go ahead and move on to the price report with Bawdy. I'm sure people have been waiting for that. There's been some interesting price action happening recently.
Let's do it, guys. Like and share, retweet. Let's get the word out. We got 300 live viewers. Keep pumping it. Let's go.
The Monerotopia Price Report segment is sponsored by Exolix, a privacy-focused, non-custodial instant crypto exchange. Go to exolix.com to enjoy secure and completely anonymous swaps with no KYC or sign-up. Swap between Monero and 2,000 plus assets at the most competitive rates and with no limits. Exolix.com, your fast and secure way to privacy.
Hello,
Bawdy.
GM. How are you guys doing?
Doing good.
Yeah, we definitely did have some interesting price action the past week. Mostly panic in the streets. I wouldn't call it blood. People haven't gotten to violence just quite yet, but yeah, people are worried. They're clamoring for their alt season. They wonder why Bitcoin hasn't broken to new all-time highs.
The people are getting impatient.
Say what?
The people are getting impatient.
That's right. I mean, everybody gets impatient when it comes to their gains. They want them. They want them hard. They want them fast. They want them now, not tomorrow.
That's what she said.
But, you know, who can blame them? Everyone wants to get rich, wants to get retired. And most of all, everyone wants to see their asset go up, but nothing else. Because if everything goes up, you're like, well, everybody else got richer too. And
if
that just
everyone's a superhero, nobody will be.
You're special, just like everybody else.
Oh, yeah. So if everyone's special. Monero Corner tip 10 cents. Bawdy, it seems like crashes / crises always take longer to unfold than expected. Do you think they could stretch this out another 3 years to give people what they want, and at the end make the people think socialism is the answer to usher in power grab? That's a very elaborate question.
Yes, I would say kind of. Probably 3 years is a bit long in the time horizon, but the whole socialism, freedom, power grab, first by inflation, then by deflation dynamic, you know, that's like their modus operandi, right? You know, and the thing is too, people are dynamic. People are an evolving thing, right? You have new people coming into the markets all the time. You have youngsters getting their college degree. You know, you got people making money, and, you know, in terms of like moving into the middle parts of their career, they're saving up a nest egg, etc. And, you know, people get the whole like freedom notion because, I mean, we were taught from childhood, right? The Bill of Rights, etc. So they kind of have to like it's a continual process of ushering in the socialism and then walking it back a little bit, and, you know, and then doing another false flag and doing the power grab. Like it's a never ending thing. And it's something that we need to get comfortable with because it's never going to end. Even in a free society, there will still be people trying to do that. So eternal vigilance, as I believe our fathers, the founding fathers, told us. So I guess with that, let's just go ahead and see what happened with the price. Monero, nothing really happened with the price. I guess we're no longer a stable coin, so maybe we should be happy about that. Everybody celebrate that we're not a stable coin. We are now I guess we're an inflation trending coin. Maybe you could say that we trend up with inflation now, as opposed to being pegged to the US dollar, effectively, accidentally pegged. Yeah, so, okay, anyways, with the chart here, pretty clear what's going on from what we talked about last week. You know, we're basically hanging out here in these upper standard deviations. You guys hopefully remember that I said, listen, this is a bullish structure. Things are setting up nicely here. This does not imply immediate breakout, although it could, right? Chart can do whatever the hell it wants. It doesn't have to listen to me, no matter how many times I tell it what to do. But we still have this like very, very clear, you know, higher lows all along the way for like basically for, what would that be, like 14 months now? We just keep setting higher lows, higher lows, higher lows. And now you can even see these wicks down, like they're wicking into what is already a rising band structure. So yeah, that's a really good sign. But we also talked about last week, said, hey, you know, these bands, especially these longer bands, they've been established for so long. You really need some long-term price action up here before those bands curl up. But these ones are shorter, and that we could see something that looks like this, right? Hell, we could even see something like if there's some big broad crash, you know, hypothetically, like if there's a blood in the streets moment before they run crypto prices towards the upside again, and that could happen even without a macro crash. Because this is crypto, guys, and this is what happens. I don't care that it's regulated. I don't care that it's part of the government now and that it's in the stock market and like that doesn't matter. These guys are sneaky bastards, and they have a lot more regulations that they have to sort of get around when it comes to the stock market. They have to do their misdeeds in a much more kind of subtle and hidden manner in these legal gray areas. But crypto is definitely more like the Wild West, and they've still got their complex of exchanges that exist outside of the regulated system, in which they can pull their little tricks and their little dirty misdeeds with the price, and they can liquidate you only to come back up to the upside and make the move that was organically already going to happen. So I'm saying the point of all that is that there's been some panic in the streets lately, and I just want you guys to know, like, there could be liquidation, stop hunt type wicks towards the downside before we get the real upside movement. Again, it's still weird for me to think that this would be the top. Maybe the diminishing returns have kicked in so hard that I'm just totally wrong and I'm about to get trapped at the top, but I don't give a fuck. I'm holding anyways. So yeah, especially with Monero. So yeah, I think a lot of people are of the same mentality, like this general social fabric out there. Like, people aren't going to sell. There might be some panic sellers down there, but right now, expect more like trading liquidation wicks as opposed to true panic selling. The only real way that we get major panic selling is the macro crash notion. 3 years is a bit long. You know, that super chat, it is true that it does seem like these macro crashes take longer to play out, even than I've expected, right? I've kind of expected it to happen a little bit sooner. But then the signs, you know, every week I'm here like, it's coming. The pattern is unfolding, but it's not imminent. So I guess we'll just keep saying that until the signs look like it's imminent. I don't want to be, Chicken Little or whatever every single week, like the macro crash, but the pattern is clear. It's setting up at the same as it's happened before. Anyway, so yeah, Monero actually did quite well in terms of the panic in the streets. Really nothing major here. This looks like just a regular chart to me. Realistically speaking, the rest of crypto looks like a regular chart to me. So I think the panic is a bit oversold, but okay, whatever. Yeah, looking nice there, looking nice. And you'll be able to see the same thing on the XMR BTC price going down into the daily. I guess I take it back. XMR has kind of like held its own lately with Bitcoin. And this is interesting. So let's turn on the wave magic and see what things look like here. I kind of would have expected it did look to me a little bit like Monero's price was ready to move up here to the upper standard deviation levels, but relative to BTC. But Bitcoin had a big dominance bump, so a lot of alts did crash. We'll take a look at that in a second. This is fine. I guess this is just going to be like, this looks to me like a stabilization kind of thing. Again, if Bitcoin decides to pump to new whatever, this chart's going to come back towards the downside. I don't expect this to set new, at this point, I don't expect this chart to crash down further. I think some stabilization has been reached there. But price has a way of making you look foolish sometimes. Qcoin has been towards the upside on relative to Kraken. Again, these are price divergences relative to Kraken. Nothing too suspicious here. I guess that makes some kind of sense. We're seeing a lot of upwards divergences here. On the price divergences relative to Kraken, and maybe that does signal a little bit of the continued sort of support that Monero has had. If you want to see a relative price that can make you smile, and that does seem to be going towards the upper standard deviation bands, is Monero versus Ethereum. I'm not even sure it's that relevant anymore to look at Monero versus Ethereum, but there are atomic swaps that I don't think anyone uses, but yeah, we do. There are atomic swaps to Ethereum, so maybe this is slightly relevant. I guess I still probably kind of expect this to want to move towards the upside there. So that is nice. That is nice to see Monero actually recovering from the big crash. In fact, Monero relative to Ethereum has completely recovered its relative price. to before the Binance delisting. So I mean, that's that's positive, right? Ethereum is like, if Bitcoin is daddy, Ethereum is mommy. So maybe Ripple is about to replace Ethereum as mommy. I don't know what the government bureaucrats and our lovely, fabulous, fantastic, beautiful new president intends to do with Ripple. Maybe that story is more of a sold than anything else. Okay, let's take a look at the privacy coins. Sphero is not doing so great. It's been part of the loss and tragedy that has happened in the past 7 days. Pirate Chain also experiencing loss and tragedy. Guys, with the way that Pirate Chain is set up, I'm almost shocked that it has even maintained what it has at this moment. This doesn't look good. This looks like potentially the beginning of breakdown. That is definitely a wick towards the downside. So maybe it's just a liquidation wick, but man, are there really that many people trading Pirate Chain on the exchanges? Is the volume that large that it's useful to do liquidation wicks? I guess in aggregate, you could say that about every coin, but taken together in aggregate, maybe you wick all coins. So perhaps this is just an artifact of that, or perhaps it's an artifact of the massive amount of coins that were mined before people really knew what Pirate Chain was, and that steep emission curve and the ASICs, etc. So yeah, I mean, at this point, it would not be unreasonable to watch this thing end up down here, right, at the very, very long-term lower standard deviation bands. At that point, if you were to touch this line, depending on what the rest of the crypto situation is doing, I would say that's actually probably a buy, because let's do a measurement here. Hypothetically, if you were to pick up Pirate Chain at that level, and it merely just got back to like here or something, you're looking at a 4x, right? Like, you could put a little bit of cash on a Pirate Chain at these kinds of levels, and even hope that in a big bull market, you could be shooting for something much higher, right? You could be shooting for a 10x there. I'm not telling anyone to go buy Pirate Chain. I'm not telling anyone to use it. I'm just saying, hey, if you like to trade privacy shitcoins, then that might be an opportunity to look for, right? You might set a buy on an exchange at 0.06 or whatever. Obviously, we want to look at Xano. Everybody has been talking about Xano for the past couple months. So yeah, Xano continues to have this like big sell-off event again. I think the market is kind of like, wait, what? There was a big pre-mine and et cetera, and I think people kind of lost a bit of confidence. This would be a spot to actually look and say, okay, maybe you could take a long here. I'm afraid we might actually be able to influence the Xano price here on the price report. So, if I have some amazing prowess of prediction on Xano, like, just know that, I could be creating my own reality here, right? Like, it's possible that we could be manifesting this into the ether, and not the Ethereum ether, but like the price gods ether. Anyways, yeah, again, don't take it too seriously here. But yeah, Xano, this like on the Wave Magic technical tea leaves, you would look at this and say, yeah, that's actually potentially a bottoming pattern. But again, if the rest of the crypto market crashes and there's a big wick down, I would more so expect Xano to find a bottom at this spot right here first. So it could do this or something, or you could see a big fucking wick like that. Depends on what the crypto market's going to do. I don't necessarily have big opinions on if we're going to get a wick down first before we go up. But again, I still think in the broader sense, like, I still think it's bullish. I still think overall, like, there's upside. Most people are just going to hodl. Good, just hodl. That's easier than trying to trade this shit. Zcrash has done what it does, and it is finding its way back down to the downside towards the bottom. In fact, you'll notice some significant lulls here on this chart. Man, I just have to keep scrolling back. Let's go. Let's make sure I'm on the right. Let's go to crypto, because this the crypto colon, and then the ticker that gives you like the full price history typically. So, although I guess we were basically already on the full price history. But yeah, I mean, look at this, guys. Like, super lulls. This thing is within about a 2x, about 50%. 40% of its effective all-time bottom or all-time lows. Yeah, because I mean, that's what happens when you have a corporately mined coin that still has a 20% founders reward, and is the corporate privacy coin that's listed on the exchanges that just can't stand to list Monero because it's too private. It's too good.
Zcash still has the dev tax?
Maybe they got rid of it. I don't know. I just don't pay attention to them anymore. I just don't think they're relevant. Like, they lost. It's over. Like, they're not coming back. No one wants the corporate coin. Like, there's the reputation loss is too great. They're not going to be the privacy coin. It's just that simple. Maybe I think they still have it. Maybe that would be, if someone wants to look that up and inform us here, that would be great.
It is funny how they kind of round tripped just a few months ago, like to where they are now.
Yeah. You know, if you really want to understand the power of Zcash as a corporate privacy coin versus something like Pirate Chain, which is like the, it's more like private. I don't want to call it a scam, but it's easy. It's more like it's private chicanery, we'll just say, versus the corporate chicanery. You look at Pirate Chain and you're getting, what are you getting here? 142%, maybe 200%. Whereas on Zcash, you're really from the bottom. You're getting significantly more gains, right? You're getting 300% there, but they're both still round tripping. They're both still going to behave the same because the people behind it are doing the same thing, right? They're slowly selling off their stack. They're milking it for everything they can. They're distracting investment potential, bro. I guarantee you, there's a shitload of Zcash holders that are just like, they've been hodling for a long time, and they're just going to continue to hodl. It's a mentality that I've seen in myself. Sometimes I buy something and I'm like, listen, if this thing just dies, whatever, I'll just hold it forever, I guess. I'm not even going to bother selling it. I've already lost 80%. I'm going to recoup 20%. It's just like, it's not, unless you're really like scavenging for pennies under the sofa, you're probably, for the most part, you're just going to be like, oh, whatever, maybe it'll come back at some point, or maybe some new big glorious bull run happens and I can get out at the break even level, right? Otherwise, fuck it. I'm not going to take the loss. not until I sell. All right. Anyways, that's privacy coins for today. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. Actually, we're on total crypto market cap. Why not? Let's just stay here on total cap. The overall cryptocurrency has been seeing some moderate headwinds towards price increases. This looks exactly like it's looked before. I mean, it's the fucking same, guys. Like, this looks exactly the same. Let me show you. Oh crap. Can I show you? No, I guess I has the retard, so I'm having problems here. Alt T. Yeah, that's the quick key that I hit Control T. Yeah, okay. So look, we've got, kind of this like decreasing action here, right? It's actually even a little bit of a bullhorn, a broadening structure. And then what do we have here? We had the same freaking thing, right? Had the exact same thing, where you had this like decreasing broadening structure. Overall, the situation was bullish on the long term, but look at this, March to November. Holy crap. That's like 8 months or something, where price was just steadily down until we finally broke out. So, I mean, it's totally possible. It is 100% possible that this thing could have a very similar structure. Let's drop a horizontal line right there and say that, we'll say that probably you really want to see some kind of, you don't really want to break that horizontal line, and we're actually getting pretty close to it. Although the same thing kind of happened here as well. Let's drop another horizontal line. So we're trying to describe the market right now. I'm not trying to prescribe what must happen or what should happen. Usually you want to be descriptive with these lines first, and then look for patterns and say, oh, wait, actually, this kind of looks very similar to this kinds of things that we've seen before. And oftentimes these patterns are born of similar market situations, right? We're talking about the aggregate organic action plus the market maker action, the liquidity provider, and the exchanges, and that, like the whole aggregate of everything that's happening in the market. Markets are fraud. That will always be the case. Stop crying about it being fraud. I mean, yes, point it out, right? Obviously talk about it, but don't shake your fist at the clouds, because that won't help you win anything. Just know that markets are fraud. And when you talk about market analysis, you have to do fraud analysis. If you are not doing that, you are not analyzing the full extent of markets. Anyways, blah, blah. So you'll notice here in, when was that? That would have been August. Yeah, there was a liquidation wick here that happened in August last year that took you back to that previous sort of not all-time high, was it? Yeah, that was a previous all-time high. That took you back to a local swing high, right? So again, we could see a liquidation wick that challenges this area, that maybe freaks people out on these lines you've drawn, crushes a couple of these lines, and then comes right back, right? So this is a possibility that could happen. In fact, I'm starting to wonder if that's not more and more probable, given the similarities of the pattern, and given the fact that there's like this general malaise. Everyone's like, well, what's going to be the thing? Like, what's going to push the crypto higher. We thought we were going to get the strategic reserve, and okay, we got a really cool executive order that you're allowed to P2P, and also with stablecoins. I think it's just a slight side commentary here. I think it is funny that the number 2 bullet was basically stablecoins, and then the P2P stuff was like, oh, and by the way, y'all can also do P2P as well. But we're gonna do our stablecoins no matter what, right? So, or backdoor, quasi, pseudo, CBDC, etc. So anyways, that's kind of a mental point, right? Don't you think the P2P stuff should have come first, and then like, oh, and we're also going to do stablecoins because we're happy players in the market. We just no. Anyways, maybe I'm making too much of that, but little things sometimes communicate big things. Okay. Sometimes, not always, right? Don't take that too far. Every joke has some truth to it. Okay, so anyways, yeah, we're looking at total crypto market cap. This thing is having problems at the moment, but okay, Bitcoin is also showing some representative issues there. But you'll notice Bitcoin, we're on the 4-hour here. Let's go to the daily for apples to apples comparison. So you'll notice that Bitcoin is actually, it doesn't have that sort of descending broadening structure. It actually has more of a stable kind of flat pattern here, right, where it's sort of occupying this channel. You know, it's kind of still trying to ride the overall trend line here for the crypto markets that happened starting from the bottom. This is a beautiful, beautiful line. It's so beautiful that it could even be fantastic, and it's now becoming prescriptive, guys. This line right here, I think, is somewhat prescriptive for the markets at the moment because there's just so many people that would know what this line is, and the market just wants to keep following that trend line, if for no other reason than you really want to maintain that trend line to maintain at least the organic belief in crypto, right? If you're a big bag holder, if you're a liquidity provider, if you're a market maker trying to unload as much crypto that you printed from ASICs for like 10 years, you don't want to let the price drop too low. Typically, you want to like keep, especially in a bull market scenario, you want to keep that keep those good vibes flowing. I mean, you can liquidate people with wicks, but you don't want to create too much disaster unless it's part of some broader disaster, and you're like, oh well, it wasn't Bitcoin's fault, it was just the macro crash, right? Okay, anyway, so you'll notice that on the lower time frames here, going to the 4-hour, we're losing a lot of volatility, right? Bitcoin has dropped a significant amount of volatility. I would expect some big move to happen here. Maybe not immediately, but I think we're getting pretty close to some big move one direction or the other. You'll notice that as time drags on, this band structure right here only becomes more and more powerful, right? It becomes more and more difficult to break that band structure. So when you see wicks down like this, you have to say, hey, that's probably a liquidation. And now, even if we see a wick up like that, you might have to ask yourself, is that a fake out, right? Could that be a fake out? So at this moment, just know that prices are settling themselves into this like stable regime. And the more that they settle themselves into a stable regime, yes, you know that you're getting closer to like a spring-loaded action where something's going to break and move one direction or the other. But also know that could, much like the macro crash, that could take longer than you expect. And to just know that in those kinds of profiles, the swing trading, selling the local highs and buying the local bottoms is kind of like is kind of a place that you can make more money doing. You don't in a trending market, that's not as much. You wouldn't make as much money doing that. You could actually lose quite a lot. So, and then of course, once that stable trend breaks, you can actually get. So set your stops tight is what I'm saying, right? Like don't be going for wide loose stop losses or or even better, letting your liquidation point, your margin call, be your stop loss. Okay, here's the Z-scores. Notice Monero is doing much better than everything else, actually, including Bitcoin, in terms of the Z-scores, in terms of its own previous past performance relative to its own moving average and standard deviation. What's doing the worst? Bcash. Bcash is doing the worst down here. We won't spend too much time seeing who else is competing to be the worst, but Monero right now is winning. We tend to do that, right? When the markets are stably kind of floating downwards, Monero tends to overperform, right? Monero catches up when things are boring. They don't ever want Monero to pump and be exciting when nothing else is pumping, right? They typically want to give back those gains. And I think they play this game, right? We've talked about the price suppression of the fractional reserve for a long time. They maxed out the fractional reserve, so they have to do other things, and they use market psychology, and they do that with gold as well. Okay, let's go to the macro and take a look what's happening here. Nothing really that interesting, except for gold is doing quite well. The reverse repos, which are money parked at the Fed with the Fed overnight by big financial institutions, continues to fall. We set some new lows this week. Only about 100 billion left. At one point, there was only about 80 billion left in the reverse repo. So again, that's money that can hypothetically go into risk. That doesn't mean it has to. Oil being funny, pretending like it's going to break out of our pleb lines and then actually not breaking out. But, you know, again, with the wave magic, that kind of helps us to see that. So removing the pleb lines now, you can actually see that this really just kind of looks, you know, like an asset that's sort of trending in between the nearest local bands, right? The nearest daily bands. So, yeah, I mean, this thing, it definitely seems to be downtrending overall. Hypothetically, we can turn back on the pleb lines, and yeah, I mean, oil keeps trying to get back into this zone. It feels like, what did it do? It had a fake out, you know, above the pleb lines and then came back down into this zone again. So, yeah, I mean, again, oil is one of those triggers we're looking for. If oil starts crashing, right? If oil starts falling out of its trend, if it starts showing very clear negative indications, that's a sign that the macro crash is probably getting really close. Like, we're talking weeks at that point. So far, it hasn't come. So, you know, we're not gonna fret about that too much. But yeah, hey guys, for the last 6 months, this has been a very good lesson for me and for everybody that's been listening. These macro movements can really take a long time to play out, right? So I'll keep that in mind the next time we end up in this situation where the patterns play out like this. Could be another 5, 6, maybe even 10 years before something like this same pattern structure in terms of bonds and macro crash. It could be a long time before that happens again, right? But that's an important thing we'll need to remember. Dollar index seems to be relatively stable. Again, this is a fairly bullish chart pattern at this moment. It seems to be stabilizing. It hasn't like fully convincingly broken out, but if this thing starts moving towards the upside again, especially if we start getting, you know, into this zone right there, that's a sign that Dixie's about to start going. And if Dixie starts going again, I'm going to start getting a lot more concerned about hypothetical macro crashes on the horizon. Actually, not on the horizon, like being close by. Gold set a new all-time high this week, so that's pretty cool. You'll notice, so we actually talked about this. We said, hey, gold is actually preparing to move up again. The fact that gold continues moving up here, even as everything else is showing this general malaise, is a sign that, again, we're probably not at the top, guys. It's difficult to think that this is the top of the crypto markets. You know, but as we talked about, you know, we kind of expect to occupy this sort of zone, right? We sort of expect gold now to try and sort of do this kind of action here. Let's go to the longer term charts. Oh, sorry, let me erase everything. Let's go to the longer term charts because I want to show you this purple lines here, right? So you've got, you know, dreams within dreams. You've got lines within lines, programs, hacking programs. Yeah, so we've got the purple line here at the top, and that's a much longer purple line. Again, this is an acceleration metric over your accelerate. Yeah. It's effectively an acceleration metric, something comparable to that regarding your standard deviation. So in other words, when the blue lines, when your standard deviation starts moving, the purple line starts showing you how fast that line is moving. And that really, it's incredible how much I've seen this work. It shouldn't work. Like, no one's looking at this. No one has this. I honestly think I invented this concept. Maybe some like other person out there doing like some stuff, and I've just never seen it. I have never seen, and I've tried to find it, but I've never seen anyone do this like derivative of standard deviation and not in a non-arbitrary, non-multiplier fashion. Everyone uses the 2, 3, 4 standard deviation, but it's arbitrary. Anyways, blah blah. So yeah, you'll notice that these purple lines from 2011, these purple bands are long-term purple bands that were set from the peak in 2011 going all the way back. In fact, we could go to the monthly here and weekly, monthly. We can go to the monthly here and you can see what I mean. And in fact, it's kind of crazy. Gold is now breaking out of this rising wedge structure. Like, this is a very clear breakout. And yeah, maybe it's a little bit harder to see on the monthly, but yeah. So this is back here. This is 2011 right there. So yeah, this band structure, I mean, it's just bullish. Probably that's bullish for inflation too, because that's what gold does. It keeps up with inflation. So like, this could be inflation bullish right now. Anyways, yeah. I expect gold to continue running here for some time frame, for some time period. And that's a good sign to us that the gains are still on the table. Crypto is still going to perform. NASDAQ and stock markets basically trending sideways. They really, I think that overall, I think it's so psychologically prominent in people's minds that the stock market is basically at its 1929 and .com levels of I don't know, of performance or whatever, of hype and whatever. Yeah, you know, there's another thing that happened here that we need to talk about. So I've said for a long time, NVIDIA is not a bubble. NVIDIA is not a bubble. In fact, I said that here at this line at this vertical line right there. I said NVIDIA is not a bubble because it's now a defense stock. Well, a lot of things have kind of been happening in the AI sector, and these developments aren't necessarily positive, bullish for the stock market. Actually, it is possible that these developments, if they continue, how can we say this? There's a lot of hype around AI. Okay, there's a lot of real stuff around AI that's super important that's happening, but there's also a lot of hype, and this is true of anything. This is like Bitcoin. When it hits these massive blow off tops and then falls, it takes years to regain. It's like Bitcoin is a great idea and distributed ledgers are a fantastic idea. And the stock market itself, like owning a share of a company and trading equities of ownership stakes in companies that are useful to society. These are great ideas. And so great ideas often get leveraged to the hilt, right? They get hyped up. They get max value extraction. They pump to ungodly levels, right? And then they crash after that bubble becomes too much. So I say all that to say that just keep in mind AI is the same thing. It is extremely useful. I use it to such great effect and improvement of my own life with these LLMs. But that doesn't mean it's not overhyped, right? For a long time, NVIDIA was the primary. They had their moat. Everything was great. And then there's this DeepSeek R1 and even R0 that came out. It's like a fundamentally different way of training a network. They're actually, to give you a really, really quick little like tiny thing, it effectively allows them to train the logical, like the smarter fine-tuned training where LLMs simulate a type of reasoning ability. It allows them to train it on mathematical problems and then do that feedback in an automated fashion, which is very interesting. And it's how the Chinese, this Chinese group was able to basically produce a reasoning model that performs in the neighborhood, right, of the latest models on much lower hardware. The devil's always in the details, and I always wonder, like, how much is this overhyped? Could it, is it really performing at certain levels? One thing that AIs tend to do is train on the last set of AI problems, like the evaluation. How good is this AI? They tend to train on all those problems that came before. It's like studying all the SAT questions, that you've seen before. So they do really good when, you release a new AI and then you that was trained on the problems that were used to evaluate older AIs. Okay. But anyways, it does seem like there is something happening here. And then there's an Apple architecture in which they don't, their memory isn't just, it's not GPU memory. It's not VRAM like NVIDIA has VRAM. Their RAM space is shared with the CPU and the GPU simultaneously, making the CPU architectures a lot more manageable. And so people have been stacking, I don't know, I can't remember, Mac Minis or Apple Mini, whatever. They've been stacking them because of that memory architecture that apparently allows you to really, really beef up that VRAM in an easy way, or what is effectively would otherwise be your VRAM. I know I'm kind of long in the tooth here on this whole explanation. The point is that with all that context in mind, NVIDIA has been having troubles because when DeepSeek came out, people said, hey, maybe we don't need these massive NVIDIAs, the H100 clusters of 100,000, 500,000, or of 100,000 or 500,000 of them to train AIs. Maybe there's better architectures. And honestly, so much of this bull market has been built on the AI hype. And obviously the tech hype. We could be looking at a situation here that could actually be the trigger. Like, this is more than anything that I've seen before said, hey, maybe this could be a trigger, whatever. This is more than any of those things higher up in my mind. That is, does this signal the top? Does this signal the beginning of the lead into the macro crash? I think that there's a very real possibility of that. I think that time is going to have to tell here because I am not super educated on this AI stuff and the architectures. I couldn't even call myself an advanced pleb in this context, right? Like, I just keep track of it a little bit. I try to keep up. I don't know how to tell heads from tails in a lot of cases in terms of like what's real and what's not. So it's like, I'm like, cool, maybe, right? I'm a skeptic. I don't disbelieve, but I'm not a believer either. So NVIDIA seems to be recovering here a little bit. I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. All right, that's enough on NVIDIA. I just wanted to provide you guys with some like larger general context there for that. Let's see. One interesting chart. I always forget what this chart is called. This is the spread between corporate bonds and government bonds. And when people believe the market is never going to crash and it's always going to be amazing and sunshine and rainbows forever, that spread collapses closer and closer to zero. I shouldn't say zero, really. It drops lower and lower because everyone thinks that corporations, are going to be totally fine and their bonds are totally safe. So So, corporations like have to, they have to offer, or they can't offer higher rates. They can't get higher rates as a result. Anyways, this always goes down in the lead up to like some kind of crisis, but it can go down for a long time. All right. That's just an interesting chart. Just wanted to show that to you guys. Oh, bonds. Yeah. So bonds did some big peak. They're kind of coming back down. No major volatility here. So nothing concerning happening in the bond market. We did get some unemployment numbers, and this is actually SOM rule. This is breaking. It's not breaking the SOM rule, but it is starting to look like the unemployment index is starting to break the SOM rule. We have now had, so we had this like big run up, right? And then it kind of leveled off now and is coming down. So since July of last year, basically unemployment leveled off and is starting to drop again. And that's the reverse of actually a macro crash, because usually the SOM rule, as it's called, which I actually discovered, after the fact of recognizing the pattern, but yeah, usually when unemployment starts spiking, it's like, hey, recession incoming soon. Unemployment starts spiking, recession incoming soon. Unemployment spiking because we shut down the economy for a cold. The economy caught a cold. Now we've had the unemployment spiked, but now it's actually holding on. It's holding on better than it ever has really in the past. So the other thing that we said is, hey, this is coming from like record low unemployment, almost like 3.4%. 4% is relatively low, modest unemployment. So we said, hey, maybe this is just still correction to normal. That's just a counterpoint for the macro crash thesis. I just wanted to toss that out there for you guys. I think we have a super chat here. We have Anon. I don't know if Tux, if you want to throw this super chat up there. We have Anon tipped 10 cents. He says, when Lambo, you get your Lambo when you tip more than 10 cents, bro. No, I'm just kidding. We appreciate it. That was a joke. 100% joke. Thanks for the tip. We appreciate it. Yeah, when Lambo, I don't know, probably within like 6 years. Hey, real G's know that it's not about the Lambo. It's about the airplane, right? Get your airplane and then fly around on your own dime, fly around on your own.
Bawdy, you have a plane, don't you?
I do not have an airplane, but I do have my pilot's license. I haven't flown in forever because I can't rent an aircraft here in Mexico. I can't rent a Mexican registered aircraft with my U.S. pilot's license.
Oh, yeah. Wow. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it really is. So I'm not current at all. I'm like way out of my currencies. So maybe I'll download Microsoft Flight Sim, spin up a VM and get like a whole, you've seen those guys with the setup with the multiple monitors to simulate like it looks like you're in an airplane. Probably I need a separate room to do that. Just have like and then I can at least maintain my proficiency that way. But we'll see. I mean, at some points I probably will buy my own airplane. I don't know. We'll see. There's a lot of like back and forth reasons to buy your airplane, and it's like a boat, right? People buy a boat and their happiest day is the day they bought it and the day they sold it. So I'm trying to understand, would I use it enough to really justify it? In America, it's easy because you can go halvesies, or you can split an airplane, with like 2-4 people or whatever, and then that drops those costs and all that stuff. So anyways, yeah, anyone in Mexico want to go halvesies on an airplane with me? All right. Airplanes and all. I think that's it, guys. Yeah, we've covered everything. Monero transactions. I don't know. Just to circle back to Monero, I always forget this until the very end. Monero transactions doing well, right? Like we had dropped down to 25K for a little bit, but now we're oscillating around 30K again. You got to pump those numbers up, guys. Those are rookie numbers. So, yep. Do continue to send us 10 cents, please, with the Monero chats, and continue to use XMR Bazaar to buy and sell all of your stuff to make the new Craigslist, the better Craigslist, the private Craigslist. That's all I got, guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bawdy.
Thank you, sir.
I guess it looks like Doug, I think you're in the backstage.
Oh, hey, I also wanted to say, you don't need a tuxedo. Just wear a shirt with the tuxedo, that would be even better.
I actually think I have a shirt that's got Tux the Penguin on it. That's got a bow tie. It was from Linux Fest a couple of years ago. I'm going to see if I can find that.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, if I was you, I would not want to have to put on the formal business attire upstairs while maintaining the party downstairs for the live stream. You know what I mean?
Hey, I mean, some people do that.
Maybe you could just put on a jacket and like a little clip tie, like on your shirt, but just you don't have to wear a formal dress shirt. I mean, you don't have to do shit, bro. You do what you want. Oh, we have another super chat here.
Yeah, another one. Yep.
All right. KSNXN tipped 12 cents. Can the existence of reverse repos completely nullify the performance of bond patterns in the event of in the event preceding a macro crash. I'm not totally sure what you mean by that. Hang on, let me think about this for a second. I don't want to just say some bullshit. Completely, I doubt it could completely nullify patterns. Maybe, no, I don't think so, because let's go ahead and take a look at the bonds here. Let's go back to the bonds, and then look at what the pattern was. So, you know, it actually. So we had the rising. So let's just off the top of my head right here, right? We had the pattern of rising interest rates, right, going into the bear market. But the bear market wasn't a macro crash, right? This was the macro crash. Now, I believe reverse repos existed before this macro crash. Let's go ahead and take a look at it, though. Let's go back here. Reverse repos. Scroll. Yeah, so reverse repos have existed actually since 2004, right? And then it's interesting, in the lead up to the macro crash, to the when the economy caught a cold in 2020, they had actually like zeroed out. And I guess that makes sense, because overall the markets were bull, right? So why are you going to keep money with the Fed when you can invest that in risk and get a better return? And then leading into the macro crash of hell, even then, let's take a look here. So, okay, yeah, there was a spike, but that was synonymous with the macro crash, right? There was a spike up to about 300 billion into reverse repos when the market crashed in 2020, but that wasn't a leading indicator, actually. But it was a leading indicator of the bear market. So, bro, that gives me something to think about, actually. Could it be that reverse repos are a lagging or synonymous, or either a lagging or simultaneous indicator with a macro crash, but are a leading indicator of a bear market? Hypothetically, that's, again, those are just like off the cuff brainstorming thoughts. Don't take them too much, but that's a great question, man. That's like one of the best questions I think that I've seen here. It could be a factor. It could definitely be a factor, but the fact that reverse repos have existed for this long would tend to say it's less of a factor. But the fact that reverse repos got used so much during the bear market could make it more of a factor, right? So I wouldn't say absolutely nullify. That would be going too far, but it is definitely something to think about. Thanks for that question, man.
All right. Bawdy, man, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciate it.
Smash that like.
Smash it. Retweet. What do we got? So we did news already. I guess we just have viewers on stage, right?
Yep, that's it.
We are approaching the 3-hour mark, guys. We'll do viewers on stage. Anybody want to jump up? It would be nice to get a new person or two. Although I do see, actually, I see a lot of people waiting to come on. All right. Oh boy, here we go. We're not going to let it run too long, guys. I guess we'll do a hard cutoff at 3 o'clock.
Hey guys, try like, one of the things about communicating is to try and learn how to make your points succinct, right? Get to the meat, to the pithy parts of what you're trying to say, without necessarily repeating it 2 or 3 times, or without like dragging on. I mean, I know this, I say that after doing like a 30-minute price report, but, you know, generally speaking, like, try and like organize your thoughts in a cogent fashion that like hits hard and delivers quickly.
This is good advice, especially in this day and age. But yeah, Monerotopia is a different type of show. We do kind of like let things linger on, but we're trying to rein things in a little bit. We're trying to rein things in, just so people can go about their daily lives. But yeah, without further ado, Tux, let's get the people up here.
All right.
Let's
Good
do
points, guys. Yep, let's do it.
It's the Viewers on Stage segment. It's that time where we invite you, the viewers, up on stage to comment on anything you've heard so far today, ask the guest a question, or maybe talk about one of the news topics. Come on down.
Come on down. Frank Castle
right.
tipped $1. Very nice.
Thank you, Frank Castle.
Very genuine. We got a lot of tips today. Thank you, guys. Thank you for using XMRchat. Really appreciate it.
Hey.
I'm not going to leave you in the backstage, Alaskanot. I will bring you up.
Bring him up. Wow, we got Arctic. We got Nihilist still hanging around. Shortwave. Yeah, that looks like that's Alaska. Oh, he's up there. Okay.
Here's just a piece of information for you. There's a new, a kind of new wallet called Monfluo, Monfluo, that's going to be released here soonish.
What is it?
It's in beta right now.
Hey, real quick, 1 second. Sorry to interrupt. There's a bad echo. I think it's actually coming from you, Doug.
Oh shit.
Okay. Sorry, continue, Shortwave.
Yep, it was Doug. No, that's all. Just Monfluo, Monfluo. It's made by a non-contributor XMR who's going by ACX on Codeberg. So it's like codeberg.org/ACX/Monfluo.
Open source, and does it have any unique features to it?
It is open source, and it's a fork of an older app called Mysu, MYSU, that was abandoned like in December of 2023 or something like that. And
yeah, I remember
then
Mysu.
Yeah, so this person forked Mysu because we thought we lost the source code for a long time. We thought the source code was gone, and it turns out we didn't lose the source code. And so since October or November or so, they've been a non-contributor XMR has been working on it and updated the Monero D and all the other stuff that's needed to actually do a new release. It's a no bullshit Monero wallet. It's got nothing except Monero. There's no fiat APIs. There's no swapping. There's no nothing. There's multi-account support, multi-wallet support, and Piconeros. That's all.
This is like the Zealots, the Monero Zealots wallet.
Yes, exactly.
Pure.
That's cool. There was another one, like another name, not Mysuo. There's another one that I heard people talking about a year or two ago.
I know what you're talking about. Anon wallet. Anon and Nero. Anonero.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know whatever happened to those. I had real trouble with it, and I haven't seen an update from them in a long time. So I don't know if they're still existing or not.
Yeah, I
know
don't
the
think
website
they've updated
still
in a
exists.
while. They made it really hard to get their APKs and update, though. You could only do it over Tor.
Yeah,
you had to use Tor on your phone to use an onion URL within F-Droid to download and update it, which made it somewhat inaccessible. But
Which I would have been fine with, but I just don't think I just had issues with their wallet, and I don't think they're updating it anymore, at least not to my knowledge. I was okay with the hoops you had to jump through to get it, though.
Arctic, what's going on, man?
Well, I'm getting ready for my travel down to Acapulco, working on my talk. So that's kind of thing at my end. Also working on the fee structure for the full share membership proofs. I kind of got the part for the actual consensus part done. So those are the kind of the main things that are happening on my end right now. And of course, watching the markets, which are very, very interesting. But that's another story. I think Bawdy was bang on the stock market. To be honest, I think we're in for some trouble. But we'll see how it's going to look.
What do you think? Tell us more. What's your opinion there on the markets?
Well, what I see is two things. I think it's a very significant risk of a major correction, crash, whatever you want to call it, in the stock market. I think that will also bring down the price of Bitcoin. It's been very strongly correlated with the Standard & Poor's. The real difficult one to figure out is Monero, because Monero has been bucking the trend of most cryptos because it's riding on fundamentals. I've always said my point of view is that a flippening of Bitcoin by Monero will happen in the bear. Whether that is at a higher or lower price than the existing price of Monero is incredibly difficult to call.
That would be insane, especially at a lower price. That would mean there had to be some like crazy event where Bitcoin just plummets.
Well, I guess I've been a long-term bear on Bitcoin. If you go back all the way back to 2009, and you do a 50% Fibonacci retracement on log scale, that would put Bitcoin be somewhere between $6 and $10. So it's theoretically, I mean, the thing about Bitcoin is if you actually go all the way back, not even to the Mt. Gox trading in 2010, everybody looks at the 6 cent Mt. Gox trading as the start of Bitcoin. Well, that was in July of 2010. You go back to 2009, late 2009, early 2010, it's another factor of 100 in the price of Bitcoin. And this is well documented. It's just not commonly expressed in, your coin market cap and all these other sort of sites that look at the history of Bitcoin. You have to sort of dig and look at go into Bitcoin Talk and study New Liberty Standards analysis of price of Bitcoin when the difficulty was 1 in September of 2009, and look at some obscure sites where you do early trades in 2010 or in January 2010. And of course, price of pizza, which depending on whether the pizza was worth, both pizzas were worth $20 or $40, it comes out of 0.002 or 0.004 cents for a Bitcoin. So these are the sort of the really early parts of it. Before the Mt. Gox trading. So if you do a Fibonacci retracement on log scale, you basically get 50%. You would actually get in between $6 and $10. That's what it is. I mean, no. On the fundamentals, you can justify that.
Bro, that's hilarious. To figure out the price of Bitcoin back in 2010, you have to judge the price of pizza.
Well, that's one of the actual indicators. But if you want to do the research and get the early stuff, you have to sort of find the links and then go into archive.org and actually link to the links, and you'll get all this information. But it was being traded for Pecunix, a form of a digital, sort of an e-gold variant. In early 2010, there were trades in terms of that. So you can establish very much a price of Bitcoin. And of course, in 2009, the analysis was based on the price of electricity and the actual hash rate, because when you fix the difficulty at 1, then the fluctuations in the hash rate, you can calculate the implied value, which is the marginal cost of mining on a CPU of electricity, what the cost of Bitcoin is. So effectively, in 2009, Bitcoin was traded against the cost of electricity, acting essentially as the market.
If you want to see that price history, you can actually, in TradingView, if you type in crypto : BTC USD, that's actually, it gives you a larger price history than just the BLX chart, which, as you noted, starts in July of 2010.
Oh, so they do actually started adding some of this earlier stuff?
Yeah, there's a ticker or an aggregated something in TradingView. It goes all the way back to 2009, October of 2009.
Oh, okay. That's very, very interesting. Yeah, okay. So that's why you'll get this extra 100-fold in there. That's very nice to know. That's very good. I actually went to the raw sources and I actually didn't look at TradingView, but that's
Arctic. What would you see as being the event or that would cause a major loss in the trust to Bitcoin to the point where it would collapse to that degree?
Well, I would be quite blunt about it. Bitcoin has a serious security model problem they have not solved. And if you read the Bitcoin white paper, and it says that transaction fees can, and I emphasize can, not will, can replace the falling block rewards. That's a fundamental issue of trust and security that has not been resolved in Bitcoin. It lies behind the position of the Bitcoin core developers, which is the best chance, and I concur with them on this, is to actually keep the block size small. So I think Luke Jr. wants to go down to 300,000 bytes or something. And you see the comments from Peter Todd, who is arguing effectively for how a tail emission would, in fact, lead to a stable number of coins. Of course, his argument is well shown in Monero, but that's the issue. And you can demonstrate very easily by analyzing Monero's fee market that the big blocker approach will fail, i.e. the approach of Bitcoin Cash. So essentially, you can show that Bitcoin Cash will fail by going analyzing the Monero fee market, and you will go and address a lot of the very legitimate concerns in Roger Bear's book, Hijacking Bitcoin, and you put the two and two together, and the conclusion is both variants will fail, both the Bitcoin Core and the Bitcoin Cash.
What's your timeline on that price risk? Like, so you're concerned that there could be issues for Bitcoin's price in the near term, but I assume what you're saying there is more of a long-term risk, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, but the question is what's going to trigger it. The other thing that could trigger it is this idea of Bitcoin reserves by the U.S. government. That is going to add a huge amount of scrutiny and questions to the security of Bitcoin, whether you like it or not. And maybe the trigger that exposes this whole thing.
I have kind of an anecdotal thing that's
interesting.
It's kind of hard to explain, but I spend a lot of time onboarding people onto XMR that are just interested in like the freedom side of things. And the reality is people in the crypto space, like a lot of them are investor type people, or, you know, where can I park my cash where it doesn't lose value? But a huge chunk of the population is not that people, right? Like 80% of people, if they have anything tied up in like the markets or crypto or whatever, and it's in some kind of retirement fund, probably more than that, honestly. And so the wider market, a lot of them don't have the slightest clue like what Bitcoin is even claiming to be or why it should theoretically have this value. It's very ethereal to them. But I always spend my time trying to get people to use the function of digital cash with Monero. And normal people understand that, and I'm sure Doug knows what I'm talking about. Normal people understand the value of, I can use this to trade value amongst my peers. And especially when you show them that kind of the volatility is minimized when you're using Monero, it is still market, but well, the thing is over and over and over again, and just like 3 times in the last week, people who they have questions instead of just, oh, I can use this, let's get started, and they move on. People who have questions, they'll first say, so is this like Bitcoin? And I'll say, well, it's a crypto, but not really. And here's the difference. They are absolutely blown away when you tell them some of the simple facts that we all know here about what Bitcoin actually does versus what people are saying it does. And they immediately recognize the lack of utility in any kind of like market function other than HODL number go up. Like they get that, especially anybody who's, I'd say, like older than 40. So people who have seen the ebbs and the flows of the boom crash cycles and all of that, they get it. If you were old enough to remember like the .com bubble, and it may seem sort of tangential, but Bawdy's point about AI, I think that they're like one and the same when you're talking about Bitcoin and AI as far as like the bubble function. Because absolutely, like some of it is really cool. You know, we talk about all kinds of stuff with AI on this show, but people are starting to catch wind of just how many scams exist in the world of AI. Like, you know, HelloFresh, or, you know, trucks are going to be computer driven in, you know, 2008. Like I remember driving trucks probably in like 2010 or whatever. And all of these younger truckers saying, I got into the wrong industry, I'm going to be replaced tomorrow by the robots and all of that. And, you know, it's 15 years later, and I don't really see a whole lot of progress in that area. You've got like 2 trucks that followed another driver across a flat plain in good weather for a little while, right? And people are starting to understand that what they've been promised with AI versus what's being delivered with AI. And I think that same function is going to hit Bitcoin probably around the same time that people actually are kind of being like crammed into using crypto. So what I mean by that is, as it gets harder and harder to send money internationally, as the dollar hegemony kind of like starts to slip a little bit more, and crypto becomes like something that has been normalized to transfer money, I think mostly across borders is going to be the big one. But also a lot of people, as the squeeze gets tighter, and I think this may be why the regulations for like credit card transactions and interest rates and stuff are becoming such an issue, is because the government sees it coming. But as people are being squeezed and they have to find ways to save money. And it's like, I could take a Monero payment or I could take a credit card payment. But if I take a credit card payment, I'm going to get robbed. If I take a Monero payment, the privacy, the low fees and all of that, we're going to see people as they start using it, realize that Bitcoin doesn't deliver, but Monero does. And in my opinion, that could very well be the trigger, where when people actually try to use crypto for its intended purpose, that I mean, it may be Bitcoin Cash too, but mostly I think Monero, because normal people understand that privacy matters when it comes to like the government and taxes. And even people who are like, I have nothing to hide, you start talking to them about taxes, they're mortified immediately. Like, you know, get them away from me, right? Because that's the government's weapon, is to say, you should be afraid of these people. They'll throw you in prison. They'll take all your stuff, whatever. But that same fear that they use to try to force people to comply with taxes will all of a sudden cause people to want to avoid being on the radar in the first place. So I don't think that the flippening is that unreal of a concept. And I also think that that may very well be the trigger, is the utility of the currency. Just like with AI, people use it for the functions that it actually works for, but the bubble pops. And I think Bitcoin would be like your NVIDIA, right? Where the Bitcoin bubble pops when they see the lack of utility, the way that people have used it as an investment vehicle instead of a trading vehicle. That will probably be its downfall.
If I may say, I think Alexanon is bang on this issue. It comes down to fundamental value of a currency. And fundamental value of a currency is removing friction in transactions. Now, we can go back all the way to the mentor of Mises in the 1890s. You can look at Keynesian economics, or you can look at Austrian economics. It doesn't matter. You come out with the concept that the value in a currency lies in its use case by removing friction in transactions, freedom and privacy being one of them, obviously. And yes, the amount of fees. So if you do not do that in an effective way, then you have failed. And this is why I'm so bearish on Bitcoin. So ultimately, this discrepancy is going to be figured out by the market. And the investors are going to figure out that they don't have something to invest in. So if you're an investor, and this is how I approach Monero, I'm primarily an investor. I approach it, I want to buy something that people can use and benefit from as a peer-to-peer cash, and that's removing friction. And of course, what Alaska was talking about is freedom and all these other issues, which are in fact a friction on transactions. And that's what you do. That's the improvement. That's the value in it. And that's why you would, if you look at the basic, something like the equation of exchange, you would say, okay, I'm going to buy this asset because I believe that in the future, more people are going to use it. And hence, it's not a sell to a greater fool theory, but rather a genuine belief that you can hold it as an investment asset because other people will use it and it's beneficial for them to use it. And that way, it's no different from buying a productive company. You see a company that's making a great product, maybe they haven't got a lot of sales right now, but they'll do in the future. And you say, hey, I buy stock in this company because this is a great product or a great service. And then I'm going to turn around and profit when a lot of people stop purchasing this product or service. It's the same thing. You buy the crypto in on the expectation that somebody else is going to profit from it. Sorry, you're going to benefit from it, cause the price to go up. And that in turn is your opportunity for an investment return.
All right, I just want you to comment a little bit more on, you know, your take on if governments were, or the U.S. government in particular, were to start looking at, and they are looking at making part of its reserves, right? To put it, you know, essentially the U.S. government would start acquiring Bitcoin rather through confiscation or using tax dollars to buy Bitcoin. You see that as a potential negative event because there'd be a lot of scrutiny that would be put on Bitcoin. But I mean, would there initially be a pump? I mean, I would imagine there would be some kind of mega pump if the U.S. government starts acquiring Bitcoin.
Well, I think we may have seen a classic example of buy the rumor, sell the news. The peak of Bitcoin happened literally hours before the inauguration of Donald Trump. And it hasn't hit that peak yet. So that would be very much the argument. My argument is it's a good thing, the scrutiny, because it's desperately needed. So there has to be a scrutiny if you start doing that. It could be more of a pump, but I don't see much more happening here than it's already happened. I mean, you have a very favorable to crypto in general executive order by the president, President Trump. You have some concerns because he brought it to crypto. Well, that's a sign of what I'm talking about happening there. Non-discrimination, even a mention of privacy. All of this is very positive for crypto as a whole, but what it does is it forces people to ask the question. And it comes down to a very simple reason, and I think Alaska's comments were bang on this, is what is the purpose of this? Because if you take away the cypherpunkness, for lack of a better word, out of Bitcoin, which is what's happened, the thing has no fundamental value, and people like Warren Buffett are correct, although I disagree with Warren Buffett on one thing, he got the exponent wrong. It's too low. It's not rat poison squared, it's rat poison to the n, and there's a formula for n based on Nielsen's law that I can provide. It's about 700 right now. Yeah, so that's okay. So I agree with Warren Buffett on Bitcoin, and you think he got the exponent wrong.
And Arctic, I just want to get your. Sorry, Les. I just want to jump in here one more time, and then I'll kind of step back for a minute. You mentioned the executive order. I think we talked about it a little bit last week. I mean, what is your interpretation when you read this paragraph in this executive order? Is this a very clear communication from the executive branch of the U.S. government saying it's perfectly legal for citizens and businesses to use Monero, and they're encouraging the use of tools like Monero? I mean, does Monero fall into this definition? When I read it, I hear that Monero is legal and it's being promoted by the executive branch of the government as a tool that we want people to use.
I mean, if you want to go to the legal argument, Monero is one of the most compliant cryptocurrencies if you actually look at U.S. law on the market. You have to go back to the FinCEN guidance of 2013 because it's totally decentralized. And the minute you make it totally decentralized, and the developers and the core team and all these people that are every funding for Monero has been through volunteers. Either people have donated money and paid other people, donated services, or a combination where a developer charges less than the market rate and people pay. But there has been no funds taken out of the emission in order to support development or support the project or market it or any of this stuff. And that's a criteria that was established mentioned in the guidance from FinCEN in March of 2013, before Monero even existed. And was one of the reasons that they held Ripple to task. And so from a legal compliance point of view, Monero has been legal all along. What is the issue? And has been this business of blockchain surveillance companies saying we can surveil Bitcoin, which they cannot in any reliable fashion. And then turn around and say, well, we can't surveil Monero, and therefore we're going to try and get it delisted from exchanges. That's the history of this.
Right. So we had a whole spaces on this yesterday. You and I talked about it a little bit last week, saying that, we think now is the time to kind of strike in terms of reminding exchanges that it's perfectly legal for them to list Monero, especially given Trump's executive order here that we're reading and the fact that Monero has always been legal. So what steps do you need? Hold on there, Demartian, or mute yourself. We see you with your bag on the head. We'll bring you up in a second. What do you see as being the steps that should be taken to take advantage of the political climate to get Monero listed on more exchanges? Is it just kind of we need to convince the exchanges themselves, or is there actually regulatory clarity that needs to be happening? Do people need to know what this executive order actually means, that it clearly means that it's perfectly legal for exchanges to list Monero? What steps do you think should be taken to get Monero listed on Coinbase right now?
The first thing you have to do is you have to wean the exchanges off blockchain surveillance as a means of doing anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing. I mean, this is the fundamental problem that's been all along as to why we've had these delistings, is because you've got these companies running around telling the exchanges that they have a solution that doesn't work. So in my view, it's a double-edged approach. I mean, you have to go with the approach of saying blockchain surveillance does not work in Bitcoin. It creates false accusations, it creates false positives. It's a humongous waste of money. I mean, they're talking about cutting this and cutting that and cutting that with Doge. Well, hello, let's start auditing the money, how the money the IRS is spending and various government agencies are spending on blockchain surveillance. It's in the billions. And then you turn around and ask the question, how much you're forcing exchanges to spend on this on top of that. So that's a huge example of government waste right there to go for on the blockchain surveillance side. So you're spending all this money on an unreliable approach to try to surveil blockchains, starting with Doge. Pardon the pun. But that's the first, and I've said this for a long time. I mean, you've got to look at that angle. It doesn't work in a reliable fashion. And then, of course, you have the argument, which is the one that Doug just made, which is that you argue the privacy and the legality and et cetera, and the lack of discrimination and so on. So it's a double-faced approach. Now, I would argue that an exchange like Coinbase, for example, it will be an obvious example for somebody to turn around and do this, because they've been saying, well, at the right time, we'll do it. Or I think this is the right time. Kraken is doing it. The New York situation in many ways is not that different from the European situation. When you create a set of regulations, you may end up doing a situation where they're legalizing every coin that doesn't have fundamental value, except for one that actually has a real fundamental value. So from the perspective of protecting investors in New York that failed miserably, because what they've done is they've excluded the only coin that actually has fundamental value.
Right. Everybody can access Trump coin, but nobody can access Monero.
That's okay. So now what you've done is you've done the exact opposite of what you set out to do, which is to protect investors in the state of New York. Exactly. That's as blunt as I can get about this, but that's the bottom line. I'm not familiar with the details of that regulation, but that's an obvious argument right there. And I think it has to come up, and it has to happen in the United States. It's not going to happen in Canada. In fact, one of the concerns that I have in Canada, I'll tell you right now, is that because of the threats of tariffs and so on, Canada could move closer to the European Union. So we could see even delistings in Canada as a result of that. I'm betting, because of that. But realistically, it has to happen in the United States. And there has to be, and I think the strongest leaders are exchanges such as Coinbase that would never listed Monero, as opposed to, say, a Binance US, for example, that delisted it. They'll come later. But again, I mean, the people in Binance, why did they do it? They thought they were going to get kudos from the Biden administration by delisting Monero. They never listed it in Binance US, and they delisted it internationally ahead of the European Union.
I was surprised to learn that it was really like the Kraken people that were behind Trump more than Coinbase at a time when it really mattered during the race. They obviously all jumped on in the end. I just thought that was interesting too. Cyrus tip 26 cents. If KYC is anathema to Monero, why should we want KYC exchanges to platform Monero? We had a whole debate on this last night. I recommend you go listen to it. I mean, my argument first and foremost is that they're not opposites, right? If anything, I see Monero as being the best crypto that can integrate with the KYC interface without you being destroyed, without your individual.
We can't go listen to it because we don't have X accounts, Doug.
We're gonna be posting.
Some of us that are not going to participate. in X for a variety of reasons. But
yeah, we'll be posting that. But yeah, the whole point, Cyrus, is that it gives more people access to Monero, to digital cash, and then once they pull their Monero off an exchange, yes, people know that this person obtained Monero, but they don't know what they did with it thereafter. I personally don't see it as a bad thing overall for the ecosystem to give more noobs access to Monero, and that's kind of been my take.
Here's my
Cyrus,
argument.
I would like to.
Okay,
Arctic, just really quick, if you don't mind, if I just want to say one thing.
Yeah,
Arctic, or sorry, what was the guy's name that just commented? Anyways, I don't think that Monero is anathema to KYC, or I don't think that KYC is anathema to Monero. Like, you can choose to do with your money what you want. If you want to go interact with entities that are going to collect your personal information, which a lot of times they have to, like Uber needs your address, right? Like, they're not trying to KYC you. Like, if you want to get your food or whatever, like, they need your address. If you want to get dropped off,
it's like saying
they need your address.
cash itself is anathema to KYC, right? Like, sure,
Yeah.
if you can use it peer to peer and avoid ever being KYC, that's ideal. But like, if anything, I think Monero is most resistant to the harms that KYC causes compared to any other crypto.
Well, the argument that comes up, and this is a really important one, is that this again is what the blockchain surveillance companies have been saying. KYC is not incompatible with Monero. Quite the opposite. What Monero does is it forces people to do KYC right. So you actually have to know your customer or know your client, whatever you want to call it. You can't rely on guesses and so-called heuristics on the Bitcoin blockchain, falsely accusing people of crimes they have nothing to do with, which is what KYT is, which is what companies like Chainalysis has been selling. So what Monero does is it forces you to do KYC right, and I would argue actually would help the objectives of preventing money laundering and terrorism financing, because you can manipulate blockchain surveillance in order to get around and facilitate the very things that you're talking about. So you can manipulate blockchain surveillance to engage in money laundering and to engage in terrorism financing. So that's how dangerous it is. Because you're so one could legitimately argue that it is very harmful to the law enforcement objectives to use blockchain surveillance as a way of doing these kind of things. So the answer is yes. Not only is it not incompatible, it actually supports the very thing that you're trying to accomplish with KYC in order to prevent AML, anti-money laundering, and counter terrorism financing. So if you're concerned about a shipment of fentanyl across the border, how they'll be paid for, you're far better off dealing with Monero, which forces you to properly KYC the person that you're dealing with in a regulated entity, than trying to rely on these heuristics on the Bitcoin blockchain, because some company has told you that they can correctly identify whether that Bitcoin address is address involved in an act of terrorism or money laundering, when in fact they're just blindly guessing. So that's the reality that we have here. So I mean, so I will go a lot further than that. Now, in the Uber example, and privacy is very interesting, because what happens with companies like Uber is if I order food from a restaurant and they deliver it and there's no centralized app and all of this stuff, that restaurant knows my address, but it doesn't share it with every other restaurant in a centralized entity in a foreign country. So it becomes a local affair. If I order a taxi and I pay cash for it, there's no real, there's a record that they dropped a person off at a certain address. That's it. There's no record of who they dropped off. Maybe there's a picture you can correlate on the camera locally. When you hire an Uber, on the other hand, you have a way higher privacy risk, because now all this is centralized in a centralized database more often than not in a foreign country. So the dynamics are fundamentally different between an Uber, for whether it's for delivery or whether it's for transportation, than just hiring a taxi cab and paying for cash, or just having your food delivered to your pizza delivered to your address and paying for the pizza with cash.
Monero Uber coming soon, right? That's something I think all are waiting for at some point.
You can mitigate the risk, obviously, of using things like Uber with Monero, but if you pay for a cab with Monero or you pay with a cab with cash, then you've eliminated that risk. In fact, in-person transactions is the less where cash and hash rate is still very competitive with Monero is digital transactions. So this is where Monero really competes with credit cards. That's another story. But what I'm getting at is that it's more than just, that's the company has, what they can do with it, where it goes, how it's stored, how it's handled. This is a whole issue that you get into the GDPR in Europe. And then you get, for example, the privacy laws everywhere. You have any kind of privacy law. It's not just a question of that you collected the data. It's what you do with it afterwards. And that's where companies like Uber have a real problem from a privacy perspective.
Let's
Hey, do you
get
mind if I jump
D-Martian
in?
up. Yeah, let's get
Oh,
D-Martian
hey.
up here before he passes out. What's going on, brother?
Hey, this is wonderful. I'm sharing a room with some of the best people in the world, in my opinion. Arctic Mind, we got Doug, and yeah, even Alaskanaut. Yeah, he always shares good perspectives. And I wasn't there before that, but I'm sure there's other good people here too. So I'm gracious, and I'm very happy that I'm up on stage right now. But it sounds like it's going to counteract that, right? What I'm going to say to Arctic Mind is something that was brought up a while ago. And I want to bring this up because I do respectfully disagree with you on this point. And I wouldn't bring it up. I would go my own way. But I want to bring it up because I think that other people would agree with me too. And and I think that we might be able to hash it out in a way that's convincing to one side or the other, or somewhere in between. So let's get to the point. Is that you mentioned that from your studies and chain analysis that your conclusion was the best way to go about it was to be a bit transparent, is put things put things through exchanges so that you would have receipts of all your stuff, so that if anyone came to you, then you would be able to prove that, hey, okay, well, I didn't do anything bad because I have some authentication, basically legitimacy, phony legitimacy through these exchanges or whatnot. And I think a lot of people will be like, hey, I hate KYC. I don't think that's the way to go. Is this something that you still believe?
Okay, to answer you, there's a couple of things. What I've said, and I stand by my position on this, is with a coin like Bitcoin, you either have KYC or you don't, but don't mix the two because you're going to get into trouble. And this is where people are getting into trouble. So they buy Bitcoin with KYC and then say they're going to trade it for Monero. Well, you're far better off buying. Now, with Monero, on the other hand, you can move between one and the other safely. But you can't do that with Bitcoin. And I think that's the confusion. So if there's any misunderstanding, I apologize. Because I want to make this very clear. KYC is compatible with Monero, but if you're dealing with Monero, you can move from KYC to non-KYC and back and forth safely. If you're dealing with Bitcoin or with Dogecoin or any of these so-called transparent coins, and they're not transparent because this is the other problem, if you move between KYC and non-KYC, you're going to get into trouble. Because what happens is, and this is exactly what happened in the case of Roman Sterlingoff with Bitcoin Fog, is you have somebody who had a KYC Bitcoin, sold it for cash, and then was accused and convicted. In this case, convicted. So it's under appeal, based upon what that Bitcoin was allegedly done with after that Bitcoin was sold. They're saying that he controlled it all the way. Well, there's no evidence of that. It's an allegation. And then it went to somebody else. So this is where the danger lies. And it's a very real danger. So KYC, if you're playing in Bitcoin with KYC, if you've got KYC Bitcoin, then you're going to stay with that Bitcoin in KYC and either put it back into the banking system or sell it for Monero with KYC. That's an option. In fact, that's how I got most of my Monero. That's fine, because with Monero, it's like going to the bank and withdrawing cash. You go to the bank, it's a KYC transaction in the bank. You go to the ATM and you withdraw cash, or you go into the branch and withdraw cash. Then you spend that cash privately. You don't get the accusation because you can't trace it back. And that's the key point that people are missing. So yes, and if there's a misunderstanding on this issue because it's a serious problem. So but a lot of people have been saying, go ahead, buy KYC Bitcoin, and then sell it privately or sell it through for Monero. Well, you're setting yourself up for a major fall if you do that.
Yeah, but many people have been caught by doing exactly. I mean, I think that you probably know this, but
yes,
it's not often said that people they'll go to Monero and then go back to Bitcoin, and then it's like, well, that's not very hard to fucking figure out. they see it go like, oh, it goes to a black box, and then it comes back somewhere else in a way that they can deterministically or probabilistically figure out. I think the best way for people to like do their cryptocurrency would be to just accrue in regular or whatever intervals, and then spend in irregular intervals. Not something not go in and get out. Something that can be like obvious. That's something that can be proven, and or even suspected. Just something that's like, wow, this is kind of random. It doesn't make sense to me, and that's something that would make the best use of privacy and get you basically off the transparent chain by being nothing that's predictable. Would you agree with that?
Well, let me explain a couple of things. First of all, one of the common traps that people have done, and this is in the Chainalysis video, is you had somebody who had, I think it was 90 Bitcoin transactions, and they were converted to a KYC exchange into Monero. And with the current structure of Monero, Chainalysis managed to do clustering on those transactions and get some statistics that were reasonable. And that's the one that I reviewed in that video. And it's a very good example of that. The first mistake that was made there is you had 90 transactions. So if you're going to go into Monero from KYC Bitcoin and you want to preserve your privacy, what you want to do is you want to put it all into one address and then run it through a PL chain. Mm-hmm. And that means that you would actually, so for example, you cluster everything into an address. They know it's yours. Fine. They know that's yours. Then you spend it and you take your change. And you don't break it up and try to recluster it. And then in the Monero network, you can build the privacy. You can do it that way. That's one way around it. But you've got to look at the case of the Chainalysis video. It was a great example where there was this massive cluster of Monero transactions, and they managed to break it because I think it was 90 in the cluster, and even a RIN 16 isn't going to do it. Now, full-chain memberships proofs will probably break that, would break that, but not a ring of 16. So that's the other thing to bear in mind. So yes, you can get into trouble with things like that. The biggest risk, on the other hand, is not that you're laundering. And this is the problem here. And you already started with the guilt. The biggest risk is that you go ahead and buy Bitcoin. And then you trade it privately for Monero. Now think about it. If you wanted Bitcoin for some criminal activity that you're planning, what better way to get it than by buying it for Monero? Now, the person who now has the Bitcoin turns around and does a criminal act. They're going to trace it back to you. It doesn't matter whether you use Monero or you use cash. That's the problem.
How will they trace it if you use Monero?
No. Here's the point. You buy Bitcoin at a KYC exchange. You sell it privately for Monero. Or you sell it privately for cash. It doesn't make any difference. Your Monero is fine. They're not tracing you. And then that Bitcoin goes to somebody else who uses it for a criminal purpose. They trace the Bitcoin back to your KYC account. That's the danger, and it's huge.
Yeah, but let's say that I have a Rito swap account, and I sold my Bitcoin for Monero, and
yes.
and then after that, it gets used for something nefarious.
What gets used?
Illegal.
The Monero or Bitcoin?
I sell my Bitcoin for Monero, and then
Yes.
the Bitcoin gets used. The Bitcoin that I sold gets used for a nefarious purpose. I have some record of through Rito swap that I sold it, and it's not me. Whatever they did with it.
Maybe you do, or maybe you don't. Or maybe you sold it 10 years ago, and then you're accused and thrown in jail, which is what happened to Roman Sterlingoff.
And that's kind of what Arctic Mine is saying. If you're going to swap from a transparent blockchain to Monero, you want to do it somewhere where there is a record. That's his entire
That's my
case.
point. So yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Is in order to get out of a transparent blockchain, he's saying that it may be better to have a receipt on a KYC exchange that you have gotten out of that UTXO rather than doing it off of an exchange. Because and honestly, my personal favorite example is if you were to buy Bitcoin and then you were to Arctic has this example of, let's say you used it to pay like a towing bill, and you do a peer-to-peer transaction with Bitcoin to pay like some kind of bill, and then that same output then is used to, I don't know, buy crack or something.
Well,
that's the really scary part about the idea of people using Bitcoin for as though it was digital cash. Because if the crack dealer goes and, you know, tries to cash out on an exchange, and you were the one who cashed in or did your on-ramp on the exchange, the only links between the two where there's an ID is you had Bitcoin, it changed wallets a few times, and then a crack dealer turned it into money. So like all of the things that you did in between, the only names on it are you and a crack dealer.
I mean, the ultimate way to buy something that's government approved is if the crack dealer, you know, got confiscated and then it's auctioned off to the public. Second best way maybe might be KYC. But what about someone that's in a decentralized exchange that still has digital records? Is that insufficient for?
You're kind of saying that you have some kind of KYC, or you're trying to add it after the fact. So what you're trying to say is, okay, fine, I can now KYC myself and claim that that I have some sort of record and can prove it, and then the onus is on you. And this is the unfortunate thing, to prove your innocence, not on the government to prove your guilt.
And realistically, the reason why this matters is it's specifically for a surprisingly large number of people who their on-ramp into Monero is they do like Litecoin and then they swap Litecoin for Monero. So they'll buy something on an exchange with an ID and then they'll try to swap into Monero. And what Arctic Mine is my understanding, and I don't want to put words
it's correct.
up, but basically what he's saying is there is this hidden danger when you buy a transparent blockchain with your ID and then you go into Monero, because the last known owner, the last like KYC'd owner of this output is this ID. And then if that Litecoin or whatever then gets used for nefarious purposes. Now, one of the reasons why it's not that big of a risk is if you bought it on an exchange, it's very likely that output immediately goes back onto a different exchange because the Monero user is trying to cash out.
Well, that's different.
So, yeah,
no, that's different.
That would not pose a risk, but it's really, I don't know what it is, 10%,
sorry,
something. Where
that's a different situation.
If there's a transaction between the guy that you sold it to and the exchange, if it's caught up in any kind of nefarious activity, well, you're the last ID on the output. That's the
that's the issue. Yeah, it's not the case where, and I've done this myself a lot actually. It's not the case where you will have Monero or Bitcoin, and you buy Bitcoin in exchange A, which is KYC, and it's a trick to do this if you want to do this, or Litecoin. And then what I would do is I would move the Bitcoin strictly into a Bitcoin address that has no other link to any other address, a brand new Bitcoin address, and then move it from that to another exchange where you're KYC'd, and then trade it for Monero. That's okay. But the trick you have to do there to make sure you're safe in the Bitcoin side, and the same thing with Litecoin or Bitcoin Cash, etc., is let's say I want to buy Bitcoin in exchange A for cash or KYC, pull it to my own wallet, safer than having the exchange move it over. Then you have to have a completely new, fresh Bitcoin address. So it gets one input from the exchange, goes into this anonymous wallet that nobody knows. Because at this point, you have anonymity on the blockchain, on the Bitcoin blockchain. And then you take that anonymous wallet address that has not been used for anything else, and you transfer to exchange number 2 that you also KYC, and then you buy Monero. You can do that. It's perfectly safe. Because now the Bitcoin has gone through a channel. What you've done is you facilitated the blockchain surveillance in order to ensure that they get it right. So you're telling them, okay, I took it out of exchange A and I took it to exchange B. I did this with the Monero Original, for example, in 2018. I mean, I sold this junky thing called Monero Original for Bitcoin and did exactly that. But when you do that, you've got to be very, very careful how you handle the Bitcoin or the Litecoin or whatever it is that you're doing, because you want to facilitate the blockchain surveillance so that they know it's you all the way. That's the
okay.
trick.
So Elias has been waiting to ask a question for like 30 minutes.
Please.
So let's try to give him.
I was going to say thank you so much.
Yeah,
I really
quick.
appreciate the opportunity to pick your brain, and I got the answer just now. I think it was wonderful. Thank you so much for Arctic Mind, and I'll let the next person go.
We're gonna close off soon, so just be quick, guys.
All right, real quick. This is also for Arctic Mind, mostly, I guess. So I've been thinking about this a way to try to understand the fundamental value of the currency, and I have this this way of thinking about it. That is, let's make a very simple model of a person. A person is someone who uses money and get their salary, and then they do something with the money. Let's say they buy food. To make it simple, let's say this is the only thing that happens. You know, you get your salary and you buy food. Okay, and you get your salary perhaps weekly or monthly or something like that, and then the currency has a certain value at this point in time, right? So let's say, for example, that my salary is 1 Monero, and for 1 Monero, I can buy the food for a week, something like this. It means that if I'm such a person, then I need to have 1 Monero in my pocket, right? Because that's how I live my life now. So I'm using 1 Monero, and that's in my pocket. And now if we have 10 million people like that, it means that we're using 10 million supply. And that's half the supply, I guess, of the currency right now.
Well, if I may explain, what you're basically describing is understood in the Keynesian economics as the equation of exchange. And that's and just look up equation of exchange in Wikipedia, and it'll tell you the monetary amount times the velocity of money equals the size of the economy times prices. That's essentially a tautology. Now, Austrian economics, they don't use the equation of exchange because typically what happens with gold is that M, which is the money supply, tracks Q, which is the size of the economy. So it becomes kind of a M is tracking Q. Keynesians invented it because they figured they can manipulate M and V, B being velocity, M being supply, in order to manipulate P and Q prices and size of economy. When you're dealing with what I would call a hyper-Austrian currency, which is what Monero is, the equation of exchange applies just as well when the inflation rate is less than gold, which is the case of Monero, or it's essentially stable, money supply is stable, then the equation of exchange also applies. And if you plug it into the equation of exchange, you have a fixed money supply, you have a given velocity, which generally over time doesn't change. If you increase the size of Q, the size of the economy, then the only way you can do it is by dropping P. So it's MV equals PQ. P is prices in terms of the currency. Q is the size of the economy. So if you increase Q, M and B are constant. The only thing that can happen is deflationary for P. And that's why, as more people use it as the example of person, receiving their money in Monero and then buying food, there's a hold time, which is the velocity. And that's why that causes prices to drop, because they have a fixed supply, essentially in Monero. So that's the answer.
Yeah. So and in this way,
I'm trying to meet the 1 minute deadline, so I'm going to leave you the time there.
All right. Yeah. The point I wanted to come to is just that then, if this is right, then if we think that the number of people using the currency is going to increase by 10x, for example, then it's reasonable to expect
to go down. Prices have
the
to go
value
down
will
by
go.
10x.
Yeah, exactly.
Prices, value will go up 10 times. That's essentially the issue. Assuming the distribution of the transactions and the economy is the same, there's a whole bunch of assumptions. Typically, as you improve adoption, what happens is you can handle larger transactions and have lower velocity, so that causes a price. I would expect it to be somewhat between linear with adoption to quadratic with adoption, somewhere about 1.5 to exponential or something like that, or 1.6. I think I estimated at one time. That kind of the range that you're going to get. But basically, essentially what it is that as a minimum, you would expect that if the size of the economy grows by a factor of 10, because the supply is stable, then the prices have to drop by a factor of 10. Your velocity is constant, your supply is stable. It's just a constant.
I've got one thing to add before we go, and that's that XMR Bazaar now has over 2,000 listings.
Nice.
Thanks a lot for the answer.
You're welcome.
Alrighty, guys. I'm sure you all could definitely talk for another 2 hours. Sorry, we have to cut it off here. It has already been 4 hours, almost 4 hours in the stream. But thank you everyone for coming on. Thank you, Arctic Mind, for joining us again. It's always awesome to hear from you. You're super smart and kind of a legend in the Monero space. Bawdy, Alaskan Ally, Shortwave Surfer, Nihilist, Martian, Drunk Dial Me. Great squad.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Greatly
everyone.
appreciate it. Thank you, Arctic. Thank you, everybody, for your time. Thank you, D. Martian, for jumping up. Greatly appreciate everybody. See you guys next week, same time, Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you for joining us on this week's Monerotopia episode. We stream live shows every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. You can find and subscribe to our show on YouTube and Odyssey, or listen to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or Stitcher. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or join us in the Monerotopia Telegram group. See you all next week.